In the heart of East Africa, hidden beyond sacred forests and blood-red rivers, lies the powerful werewolf territory of the Amani Clans, a union of warriors, hunters, healers, and shifters ruled by the feared alpha tribal chief Dawudi, a man born beneath a cursed moon. Feared for his brutality in battle and worshipped like a living ancestor, Dawudi has spent years rejecting mates after a prophecy warned that the woman bound to him would either save his people or destroy every clan beneath the moon. Then he meets Josephine, a gifted harvest keeper healer whose touch can pull poison, curses, and sickness into fruits blessed by ancestral spirits. Calm yet defiant, Josephine arrives carrying secrets buried in her bloodline, secrets powerful enough to awaken ancient enemies long thought dead. Because somewhere beyond the mountains lives the cursed clan known as the Hollowfang, creatures rejected by the moon itself. Half-shifted monsters condemned generations ago after their ancestors betrayed the sacred wolf packs. Their leader, Kivuli, believes Josephine is the key to ending his bloodline's suffering forever, not as a queen, not as a mate, but as a breeding womb. According to prophecy, if Josephine gives birth to a son, carrying both Harvest Keeper blood and Hollowfang blood, and that child dies beneath a full-blood moon, the ancient curse will finally break. Now Dawudi must protect Josephine from rival clans, ancestral politics, spiritual betrayal, and a war that threatens to rip the continent apart. But the deeper their bond grows, the more dangerous their desire becomes. Because Josephine's healing drains her life force every time she saves him. And Dawudi? He would burn kingdoms before letting another man touch what belongs to him.
Dawudi's point of view.
By the time I led my warriors back across the blood-red river, the sun had already begun to bleed behind the spirit mountains. The river was not truly blood, though men from outside the valley of Nuru whispered such foolishness when fear loosened their tongues. It was red because the earth beneath it was rich with iron, clay, and old prayers. Still, after the battle, when the water lapped against my ankles and carried away the blood of enemies from my skin, even I could understand why outsiders believed the river remembered death. Behind me, the warriors of Amani crossed in silence. Some walked as men, spears resting against their shoulders. Others padded through the shallows in wolf form, their wet fur glistening beneath the dying fire of evening. The wounded leaned on brothers. The victorious carried the weapons of the defeated. No one sang yet, not until I allowed it. That was the law. Victory belonged first to the ancestors, then to the living. I stepped onto the opposite bank and lifted my spear. Only then did the drums begin. Boom, boom, boom. The sound rolled from the village beyond the baobab forest, deep enough to shake birds from the branches. Women answered with high ululations. Children ran barefoot through the lion grass, their laughter bright and wild. Smoke curled from cooking fires. The scent of roasted goat, millet, and spiced roots drifted through the evening air. Amani welcomed its chief home. I should have felt pride. Instead, I felt the weight of every dead man pressing between my shoulder blades. "My chief," Jelani called from behind me, his Jamaican accent thickening the more tired he became. "You plan on standing there looking like a carved statue all night? Or are we going to let these beautiful people feed us?" A few warriors chuckled. I glanced back at my better. Jelani's locks were tied away from his face with a strip of red cloth. Blood streaked one side of his jaw, not his own, judging by the grin cutting across his mouth. He had taken a spear through his thigh before midday and still fought like a devil, with ancestors cheering in his ear. "You limp like an old goat," I said. He pressed a hand to his chest as though wounded there instead. "And yet this old goat saved your left side when that northern fool came swinging for your ribs." "I saw him. You saw him after I killed him." "I smelled him before you moved." Jelani sucked his teeth. Alpha arrogance. One day it will choke you. Not today. His grin widened. No, not today. The warriors heard and finally loosened. Some laughed, some slapped hands against shields. The heaviness of battle began to break apart, piece by piece, carried away by drums and the smell of home. But my wolf did not settle. He paced beneath my skin, restless and sharp-clawed. The battle had been too easy. The northern raiders had crossed our boundary before dawn, thinking the mist would hide them. They had burned 2 watch huts, slaughtered 3 goats, and spilled blood on sacred ground. An insult, a warning, perhaps both. We answered before the sun reached its highest point. By evening, their leader knelt beneath my spear, begging to leave the valley with his remaining men. I granted him breath only long enough to carry my message back across the mountains. Amani was not sleeping. Amani was not weak. Amani did not forgive trespass. Yet as I walked toward the village gates, I could not shake the feeling that the raiders had not come to win. They had come to test. At the entrance of the village, blue spirit fire burned in clay bowls set upon carved stones. The flames should have glowed gold for victory. They did not. They burned blue. Every warrior saw it. The laughter faded. Jelani came to my side, all humor gone from his face. That is not good. No, I said, it is not. The elders stood waiting beneath the great baobab at the center of the village. Its roots rose from the earth like the backs of ancient beasts, thick and twisted, holding the stories of our people in silence. Around its trunk hung charms of bone, bead, feather, and bronze. Every chief of Amani had placed blood there. Every chief had asked permission to rule. I had asked once. The ancestors had answered with thunder. Now they answered with blue fire. My mother's sister, Elder Nyambura, watched me with worry in the deep lines around her eyes. Zuberi stood near her, his warrior's chest bare despite his age, his gaze hard as river stone. Others gathered behind them, but one figure sat apart from all. Baraka, the blind elder. His eyes were clouded by age, but he saw more than any of us. He sat cross-legged beside a low bowl, filled with water from the moonlit river. Beside the bowl lay ash, red soil, and 3 unripe fruits marked with black ancestral symbols. My wolf went still. That troubled me more than his pacing. Chief Dawudi, Baraka said. His voice was soft, but the drums stopped as if he had cut their throats. The entire village quieted. I walked forward, feeling the dried blood tighten against my skin. My chest ached beneath the scars carved there years ago during my ascension rites. Marks of leadership, marks of survival, marks of a cursed moon no one had allowed me to forget. What have the ancestors said? I asked. Baraka did not answer at once. He dipped 2 fingers into the bowl and touched the water to the ash. It hissed. Women gasped. Jelani muttered a curse beneath his breath. Baraka lifted his face towards me. They refused the victory song. A murmur moved through the gathered clan. My jaw tightened. The raiders were defeated. Yes. The boundary was protected. Yes. Then why do the ancestors refuse honor? Baraka's fingers trembled over the fruit. Because the battle you won today was only the first footstep of something older. The air changed. Even the children sensed it. Mothers pulled them closer. Warriors shifted their weight, hands moving toward blades and spear shafts. Zuberi stepped forward. Speak clearly, old one. Baraka turned his clouded gaze in Zuberi's direction. Clear words frighten men more than riddles. Then frighten us, I said. The elder placed 1 fruit into the bowl. The water darkened instantly. My wolf rose with a snarl inside me. Baraka inhaled sharply, his body locking as though unseen hands had gripped his bones. When he spoke again, his voice was no longer only his own. It carried layers, men, women, elders long buried beneath wolf stones. The blood moon prophecy has opened its mouth. No one breathed. I stared at the fruit floating in the blackened water. For 33 years, that prophecy had followed me like a shadow. I had been born beneath a cursed moon, while thunder shook the valley, and my mother screamed my name into blood-soaked cloth. Elders claimed the moon hid its face when I took my first breath. Some said I was blessed. Others said I was punishment wrapped in flesh. The prophecy came later. The woman bound to the altar born beneath the cursed moon would either save the clans or destroy them all. So I had done what any responsible chief would do. I rejected every offered bride, every alliance sealed with a daughter, every soft-eyed woman the elders painted and perfumed and placed before me like sacrifice. I would not bind any woman to my curse. I would not let desire become a doorway for ruin. My mate has not been found, I said. Baraka's mouth twisted sadly. The moon does not ask whether you are ready. A growl rolled from my chest before I could stop it. Several warriors lowered their eyes. Baraka did not. She has awakened, he said. The words struck harder than any spear. Who? The elder touched the second fruit. This one split open beneath his fingers. Its flesh was bright gold for one heartbeat. Then veins of darkness spread through it like poison. A healer, he whispered. A harvest keeper. Nyambura covered her mouth. Zuberi spat onto the dirt. Those women bring trouble wherever they hide. I turned my head slowly toward him. He lowered his gaze, but resentment still tightened his face. The harvest keepers are protected under Amani law, I said. For now, he muttered. I took one step toward him. Jelani moved with me, silent as a blade leaving its sheath. Zuberi wisely said nothing else. Baraka continued, voice shaking. She carries fruit blessed by old spirits. Her hands can pull death from flesh and trap it where life should be. She will save what should die. She will touch what should remain buried. The blue flame snapped high. Somewhere beyond the village, deep in the baobab forest, a wolf howled. Then another answered. Not Amani. My warriors felt it too. The sound came twisted by distance, rising from the direction of the volcanic caves beyond the eastern ridge. Hollowfang territory. A cold anger moved through me. They are stirring, Baraka said. Their leader has heard whispers in the dark. He seeks the womb named in blood. The village erupted in fearful voices. I lifted my hand. Silence returned, though it trembled. My wolf pressed against my bones, violent now. I did not know this woman. I did not know her face, her voice, or the shape of her spirit. But something ancient inside me recoiled at the thought of the Hollowfang hands reaching for her. What is her name? I asked. Baraka lowered his head. For the first time that night, he looked afraid. The ancestors gave only one. The third fruit rolled from the bowl and stopped at my feet. Its skin bore a mark burned into it by no human hand. A crescent moon. And beneath it, one word. Josephine. My fingers curled around my spear until the wood creaked. Jelani leaned close, his voice low. Dawudi. But I was already staring toward the eastern darkness, where the last light of the sun had died behind the mountains. The victory feast waited behind me. The prophecy waited ahead. And somewhere in the valley of Nuru, a woman with a fruit basket had just become the most dangerous soul beneath the moon. Double the patrols, I ordered. No one crosses our borders without my blood knowing of it. Jelani nodded once, and at dawn, I looked down at the marked fruit by my feet. My wolf answered before I did. At dawn, I said, we find the harvest keeper.
Josephine's point of view.
My grandmother always said a woman who carried fruit carried more than sweetness. She carried memory, she carried hunger, she carried temptation. And if she was born with harvest keeper blood, she carried death too, only borrowed for a little while, only held long enough to give it somewhere else to sleep. That morning, I woke before the sun rose over the baobab crowns. Mist clung low to the ground outside our hut, silver gray and quiet, curling around the roots like spirit fingers. The village was still half asleep, but the forest was not. Birds chattered in the branches, insects hummed in the grass. Somewhere far off, drums answered one another with slow, warning beats. Not celebration. Warning. I sat up on my sleeping mat and pressed a hand to my chest. Something was wrong. Across the hut, Grandmother McKenna was already awake. Of course she was. That woman had not slept properly since before I was born, and yet somehow she had the strength to scold the sun for rising late. She sat beside the cooking stones, grinding dried leaves into powder with a pestle. Her silver-threaded braids were wrapped beneath a red cloth. Around her neck hung charms made of seeds, copper rings, and tiny carved bones. Her dark eyes lifted to mine before I could speak. "You felt it," she said. I rubbed the sleep from my face. "The drums?" "The land." I looked toward the doorway. "What happened?" Grandmother's mouth tightened. "Chief Dawudi returned from battle yesterday." Everyone knew that by now. Even our small healing settlement, tucked behind the mango groves and shielded by thorn fences, had heard the victory drums. Women whispered his name while pounding cassava. Men lowered their voices when speaking of him, as if fear itself might overhear and carry offense back to the Alpha tribal chief. Dawudi, the wolf who could split a battlefield with one command, the chief born beneath a cursed moon, the man who rejected every bride offered to him. I had never seen him, but I had heard enough stories to know that powerful men rarely brought peace to women like me. "And?" I asked. Grandmother stopped grinding. The spirit fires burned blue. My breath caught. Blue fire meant the ancestors were restless. Blue fire meant danger had crossed unseen ground. Blue fire meant every healer with sense stayed hidden, kept her head low, and pretended her hands were only hands. So naturally, I rose and reached for my fruit basket. Grandmother sighed, as if I had personally aged her another 10 years. "Josephine, I have deliveries. You have stubbornness dressed as duty. I promised Mama Nuru her fever tonic before midday. Mama Nuru can wait. Fever does not respect waiting. And death does not respect foolish girls." I paused with a green mango in my hand and looked at her. Grandmother's face softened, but only a little. McKenna had the kind of love that came wrapped in thorns. It protected, but it still cut. She reached toward the basket and touched the fruits one by one. Mangoes, oranges, guavas, 3 small bananas, and a red pomegranate marked faintly with ash. Each had been washed at dawn in river water and blessed beneath ancestral breath. To anyone else, they were food. To me, they were vessels. "You must not use the gift today," she said. My fingers curled around the basket handle. "You say that every day. And every day you find a reason not to listen. People come to us because they are suffering." "People come to us because they are desperate," she corrected. "Desperate people praise you when you save them and burn you when they fear what saving costs." I looked away. She was not wrong. The first time I pulled sickness from a man's lungs and trapped it inside a guava, his wife kissed my hands until her tears soaked my palms. 3 days later, his brother called me unnatural because the fruit had rotted black before sunset. He said no blessing should smell like a grave. He had not been entirely wrong either. Grandmother stood slowly, her joints stiff but her spirit sharp. "Listen to me. Something has awakened. The ancestors moved through my dreams last night like hunters. They spoke your name." My skin prickled. "What did they say?" Her silence frightened me more than any answer. Then a scream tore through the morning. Not a woman startled by a snake, not a child crying over a scraped knee. This was a mother's scream, raw enough to make the birds explode from the trees. I was moving before Grandmother could stop me. "Josephine!" I grabbed my basket and ran. The path from our hut curved through plantain trees and wild basil, then opened toward the lower village market. By the time I reached it, people had gathered in a tight circle near the clay water jars. Their voices rose over one another. "Move," I said. No one heard me. I pushed through shoulders and elbows until I reached the center. A little boy lay on the ground. Kito, 6 years old, always barefoot, always stealing tamarind sweets from his auntie's stall and smiling as if charm could erase guilt. He was not smiling now. His small body jerked against the dust. His eyes had rolled back. Dark veins crawled along his neck and beneath his jaw like spilled ink. His mother, Ayana, knelt beside him, beating her chest with one fist. "He was fine," she sobbed. "He was fine." Then he drank from the river gourd and fell. Seifa, the herbalist, crouched beside the boy with a cup of crushed leaf water in his hand. His Turkish African features were tense, his brow damp with sweat. He saw me and shook his head once. Not sickness, not simple poison, a curse. My stomach dropped. Grandmother's warning echoed inside me. "You must not use the gift today." Kito convulsed again, and foam darkened with blood touched his lips. Ayana grabbed my skirt. "Josephine, please, please, you saved Elder Bina's lungs. You saved the hunter's wife. Save my son." Around us, the crowd went quiet. That quiet was worse than noise. It watched, it judged, it waited to decide whether I was miracle or monster. I knelt beside Kito and placed my basket down. Seifa leaned close. "This is not ordinary." "I know." "Then you know it will take more than one fruit." "I know that too." His expression tightened. "Josephine, if he dies while we discuss what may happen to me, I will haunt you first." Despite everything, Seifa gave a short breath that almost became a laugh. "Stubborn woman." "So I am told." I chose the pomegranate first. It was the strongest vessel, seated like a womb, able to hold layered sickness. I pressed it against Kito's chest with my left hand and placed my right palm over his mouth. "Ancestors who walked before me," I whispered. "Mothers who carried pain without breaking. Grandmothers who swallowed grief and called it medicine. Lend me your hands." The air chilled. The market vanished from my senses piece by piece. No drums, no whispers, no crying mother. Only the boy. Only the curse. It rose beneath my touch like a living thing. Hungry, angry, old. Not river poison, not spoiled water. This had teeth. It bit into my palm the moment I reached for it, and pain shot up my arm so sharply that I nearly pulled away. Kito's back arched. Ayana screamed. I held on. "No," I said through clenched teeth. "You do not keep him." The pomegranate split. Its red skin cracked down the middle, and inside the seeds began to darken. One by one, they filled with the sickness I dragged out of the child. My vision blurred. Sweat rolled down my spine. The curse fought like it knew my name. That frightened me. Curses did not know names unless someone gave them one. I grabbed an orange from the basket and pressed it to Kito's belly. The fruit warmed instantly beneath my hand. Too warm. Heat crawled up my wrist, into my elbow, my shoulder. My heartbeat stumbled. For one terrible moment, I tasted ash and iron and something rotten beneath the sweetness of citrus. Then I saw eyes in the dark. Not Kito's, not human. Watching from somewhere deep, deep beneath stone. I gasped. The orange collapsed inward, its flesh spoiling in my palm. Kito drew one ragged breath. Then another. The dark veins began to retreat from his neck. "Again," Seifa said softly. I wanted to tell him I could not. Instead, I reached for a guava. Grandmother pushed through the crowd then, her face fierce with fear. "Josephine, enough. He is not clear. You will drain yourself. He is a child. You are my child." For one heartbeat, her words nearly broke me. Then Kito whimpered. Small, alive, begging without words. I pressed the guava to his forehead. This time the curse came loose with a sound only I could hear, a shriek beneath my bones. The guava pulsed once, twice, then turned heavy in my hand. Kito's eyes fluttered. His mother froze. "Kito?" Ayana whispered. The boy coughed. A thin stream of blackened fluid spilled from the corner of his mouth into the dirt. Then he began to cry. The market erupted. Ayana fell over him, sobbing thanks into his hair. People shouted my name. Someone praised the ancestors. Someone else muttered that no woman should be able to move death from one body into fruit. I tried to stand. My knees failed. Seifa caught my arm before I hit the ground. Easy. I am fine. You are lying. Then let me lie with dignity. He lowered me onto an overturned basket. Grandmother took the ruined fruits and wrapped them quickly in red cloth, hiding them from curious eyes. But not quickly enough. I saw the way people looked. At the spoiled pomegranate, at the collapsed orange, at me. Rumor was already growing legs. By sunset, they would say I had pulled a demon from the boy. By moonrise, they would say I had invited it in. Ayana crawled to me and pressed her forehead to my feet. Bless you, Josephine, bless your blood, bless your hands. I reached down weakly and touched her shoulder. Do not worship me. Just keep him warm and give him broth when he wakes. Her tears fell onto my toes. Beyond her, at the edge of the market, a young runner slipped away toward the main Amani road. My chest tightened. Grandmother saw him too. Her mouth hardened. Seifa followed our gaze. Word will reach the chief. The chief. Dawudi. The name moved through me like distant thunder. Grandmother leaned close, her voice low enough for only me to hear. I told you the ancestors spoke your name. I looked down at my hands. They were trembling, not from weakness, from the memory of those eyes in the dark. What else did they say? I whispered. Grandmother's gaze lifted toward the mountains, where morning light struggled against a gathering line of storm clouds. They said the wolf is coming.
By dawn I had not slept. The marked fruit from Baraka's bowl sat wrapped in red cloth against my hip, warm as living flesh. I'd ordered it burned before sunrise, but the flames refused to touch it. 3 times the fire bent away. 3 times the fruit remained whole, its skin branded with the crescent moon and the name I had not been able to force from my mind. Josephine, the harvest keeper, the woman the ancestors had placed between my people and ruin. Jelani rode beside me on a black stallion that hated everyone but him. Amina moved ahead through the lion grass in wolf form, her dark body low and silent, while Zuberi followed behind with 6 warriors and a face carved from suspicion. You look like thunder, looking for someone to strike, Jelani said. I am thinking. That is what I said. I gave him a look. He smiled, but his hand never moved far from the blade strapped across his back. Jelani joked when danger walked near. The more he smiled, the closer death usually stood. The runner found us before the sun climbed high. He came barefoot through the grass, chest heaving, a strip of red market cloth tied around one wrist. When he saw me, he dropped to both knees so hard dust jumped around him. Chief Dawudi, he gasped. The healer, Josephine. She saved a boy this morning. My wolf rose. I dismounted slowly. What boy? Kito, son of Ayana. A curse took him. Black veins, blood from the mouth. Seifa could not stop it. The Rina swallowed. She pulled the sickness into fruit before everyone. Jelani's gaze sharpened. Zuberi muttered, "Witch work." I turned my head. He went silent. The runner continued, voice shaking. The fruit rotted in her hands. The boy lives. The marked fruit at my hip pulsed once. A warning, a call. Where is she now? I asked. The lower market. With Makena. I mounted again. We ride. We had not gone far before the forest changed. No birds, no insects, only wind sliding through baobab branches, like a blade being drawn from leather. Amina emerged from the grass ahead, shifting as she ran. Bone and muscle rippled beneath her skin until she stood as a woman, spear already in hand, her braids falling over one shoulder. Something crossed here, she said. Not Amani. I breathed in. Smoke, wet stone, rot beneath ash. Hollowfang. My warriors felt my anger before I spoke. Horses stamped, wolves growled low. Jelani's smile vanished. "They are close," he said. "Yes." The first spear flew from the trees. I caught it before it reached my throat. The second struck the warrior behind Zuberi, punching through his shoulder and throwing him from his horse. Then the forest erupted. Half-shifted bodies burst from shadow. Their limbs bent wrong. Their jaws stretched too wide. Their fur grew in uneven patches across dark skin marked with old scars and volcanic ash. They moved like pain had taught them speed, like hatred had fed them for generations. Hollowfang. My claws tore free. I leapt from my horse and met the first one in the air, driving him into the dirt hard enough to crack stone beneath us. His teeth snapped inches from my face. I tore through his throat and rose before his body stopped moving. "Protect the runner," I roared. The world became blood, dust, and steel. Jelani fought at my left, laughing now. Not with humor, but battle hunger. Amina moved like a spear given spirit, cutting through one attacker's knee before driving her blade beneath his ribs. Zuberi's warriors formed a ring around the wounded. Then I saw him, not their leader. A scout, small, bent-backed, wrapped in black hide, watching from between two trees with a bone tube pressed to his mouth. I turned too late. A thorn struck beneath my ribs. It was tiny, almost nothing. Then fire entered my blood. My wolf snarled. I ripped the thorn free and crushed it between my fingers. Dark liquid smeared across my skin, smelling of moonbane, serpent venom, and something older, something made in caves where prayers went to die. The scout smiled. I threw my spear. It took him through the chest and pinned him to the baobab behind him. The ambush broke after that. Hollowfang were vicious, but not foolish. They retreated into the trees, dragging their dead and shrieking curses at the sun. I remained standing until the last of them disappeared. Then my knees nearly gave. Jelani caught my arm. "Dawudi. Do not touch me like I am dying. You are sweating blood, Chief." I looked down. Dark veins spread from the wound, crawling across my side in jagged lines. My wolf ran against my skin, trying to shift, but the poison clamped around him like iron jaws. A poison made for an alpha. A poison made for me. Amina stepped closer, face tight. We returned to Amani. "No," Jelani cursed. "This is not pride time." I looked toward the lower market road. The fruit at my hip burned. "They attacked before we reached her," I said. "They knew we were coming." Zuberi wiped blood from his blade. "Then we should turn back and gather more warriors." "And give Hollowfang time to take her?" My voice came out with enough growl to make every horse rear back. We moved forward. Jelani held my stare for one long breath. Then he nodded. Forward, then. By the time we reached the lower market, the poison had eaten deep. Every sound came sharpened and distant, every face blurred at the edges. People scattered when they saw us, warriors blooded, horses foaming, their chief swaying in the saddle like a man held upright by rage alone. I smelled her before I saw her. Rain on red soil, mango blossom, warm honey, spirit smoke. My wolf stopped fighting the poison. He turned towards that scent and went utterly still. Then she stepped from beneath the shade of a fruit stall, basket hooked over one arm, beads woven through her braids, her deep brown skin glowing with sweat and sunlight. Her eyes found mine. The world broke open. Mate. The word did not come from thought. It came from bone, from blood, from the cursed moon that had watched me since birth. Josephine stared at me as if she had heard it too. Then her gaze dropped to my side, and whatever passed between us sharpened into command. "Get him down," she said. My warriors froze. No one ordered me anywhere, especially not a woman half my size holding oranges. I dismounted by myself, though the ground tilted when my feet touched dirt. "I do not need." "You need to stop speaking before the poison reaches your heart." Jelani made a sound dangerously close to a laugh. I glared at him. Josephine stepped closer. The market watched in silence. Her grandmother, McKenna, appeared behind her with fear tucked behind fierce eyes. "This is Hollowfang venom," Josephine said. "You know it? I know curses that bite." She reached for me. I caught her wrist. The moment my skin touched hers, heat shot through my body so violently I nearly snarled. Her breath hitched. The blue spirit fire in the nearest clay bowl flared gold. Everyone saw. Zuberi whispered, "Impossible." Josephine tried to pull free. "Chief, if you want to live, release me. If this harms you..." "It will." My grip tightened. Her eyes flashed. "And if I do nothing, it kills you. Choose quickly." No one had spoken to me like that in years. My wolf approved too much. I released her. Josephine took a green mango from her basket and pressed it against my wound. Her other hand flattened over my chest, directly above my ancestral scars. Pain exploded. I bit back a roar. The mango swelled beneath her fingers. Dark lines spread through its skin as she pulled the venom from me thread by thread. Her body trembled, but her face stayed calm, stubborn, unyielding. "Ancestors," she whispered, "take what does not belong." The poison fought her. I felt it turn. Not toward me, towards her. "No," I growled. She ignored me and grabbed an orange, crushing it against my side. The fruit split. Bitter liquid ran over her fingers. Her knees buckled, but she did not let go. The market murmured prayers. Jelani stepped forward. I snarled at him without meaning to. No one touched her. No one but me. Josephine's hand slipped against my chest, and suddenly I saw fire. A blood moon. A river running backward. A woman standing between wolves and monsters, holding a basket full of ruined fruit. Then Josephine cried out and tore her hands away. The orange dropped to the dirt, blackened and steaming. Air slammed into my lungs. My wolf surged back beneath my skin with a furious howl. I caught Josephine before she fell. Her body was light in my arms, too cold, too still for the woman who had just ordered death out of my blood. Her lashes lifted slowly. "You're heavy," she whispered. Relief struck so hard it almost became anger. "You saved my life and complain about my weight? You are crushing my basket." Jelani laughed under his breath. "I like her." I looked down at Josephine, still holding her against me before the entire market, before warriors, elders, children, and spirits. Her gaze narrowed. "How did you know my name?" I had not realized I had spoken it. Before I could answer, the ruined mango beside us split open with a wet hiss. Smoke curled from its heart. In the dirt beneath it, a symbol burned itself into the ground. A broken fang beneath a black moon. Hollowfang had not only poisoned me. They had sent a message. The poison left my blood, but Josephine did not. By nightfall, her scent had become a second pulse beneath my skin. Rain on red soil, mango blossom, warm honey, spirit smoke. It clung to my chest, where a hand had pressed over my ancestral scars. It lived beneath my nails, where I had caught her body before she struck the ground. It followed me into every command I gave, every warrior I questioned, every breath I pretended still belonged only to me. A chief did not unravel because of a woman's scent. An alpha born beneath a cursed moon did not stand outside a healer's hut, like a starving beast kept from meat. And yet, there I was. The lower market had emptied hours ago, but no one was sleeping. Amani villagers watched from doorways. Children peered through woven curtains. Old women whispered prayers over their cooking fires while pretending not to stare at the alpha tribal chief guarding Josephine's door with 12 warriors spread around the mango grove. I heard every word. "Did you see the fire turn gold?" She touched his scars. The bond chose her. Harvest keeper blood in the chief's house. Trouble. I let them whisper. Whispers revealed loyalties faster than swords. Inside the hut, Josephine slept on a reed mat while Sefa burned bitter herbs beside her. and Makena sat like a stone idol at her feet. 3 ruined fruits lay sealed in a clay pot outside, buried beneath ash, salt, and iron shavings. Even contained, the Hollowfang venom scratched at my senses. Jelani leaned against a post beside me, arms folded. You know, if you stare any harder at that door, it might marry you out of fear. Speak less. Ah, so you still have strength. Good. Your jokes are becoming dangerous. My jokes have always been dangerous. That is why women enjoy them. Amina, crouched nearby sharpening a blade, did not look up. No woman enjoys foolishness. Jelani's smile shifted toward her. You wound me, huntress. I have not yet. Despite my mood, something like amusement touched the edge of my chest. It vanished when Josephine stirred inside the hut. A soft inhale, a rustle of cloth. My wolf surged so fast my claws nearly cut through my fingers. Jelani straightened. Amina's eyes lifted. 2 warriors looked at me, then quickly away. They smelled it too. The bond, not complete, not sealed, but awake. I entered before thought could stop me. Makena rose at once, staff in hand. Do not come closer. Sefa glanced between us and wisely kept quiet. Josephine lay propped on one elbow, beads tangled across her shoulder, eyes heavy but sharp enough to cut through a man's pride. Her gaze found mine and held. My wolf lowered his head. Mine. I shoved the word down so hard it burned. You should be resting, I said. So should you. Her eyes moved to my side, unless chiefs grow new organs by stubbornness. Sefa coughed into his fist. Makena's mouth twitched before she remembered she disliked me. I stepped closer. You almost died pulling that venom from me. I did not almost die. You collapsed. I was tired. Your heart stumbled. Her brows drew together. You heard that? I heard everything. The hut went still. Too intimate. Too much truth for witnesses. Josephine sat up fully, though the movement cost her. Then hear this, Chief Dawudi. My gift is mine. You do not command when I use it. When you use it to save my life, I do. No. Her voice sharpened. Especially then. Makena whispered, Josephine. But she did not look away from me. No fear. That was the first thing that struck me in the market. And it struck again now. Men who had watched me tear enemies open lowered their eyes faster than this healer with trembling hands and a fruit basket. I should have admired it. Instead, it made me want to shake sense into her and carry her somewhere no danger could breathe. The Hollowfang did not poison me only to kill me, I said. They wanted you exposed. A shadow crossed her face. Why? I said nothing. Her lips parted with bitter understanding. You know, Jelani appeared at the doorway behind me, all humor gone. Dawudi. I did not turn. Speak. Zuberi has gathered the elders near the baobab. They are saying the healer should be removed from the village before Hollowfang come for her. Makena's staff struck the dirt. Removed? My granddaughter is not rotten fruit to be thrown beyond the fence. Josephine pushed herself to standing. I moved instinctively to help. She held up one hand. Do not. I stopped. Every person in the hut noticed. That angered me more than it should have. Outside, voices rose. Zuberi's carried above the rest. Her power called them here. How many must bleed before the chief sees it? My wolf snarled. The hut walls trembled. Josephine swayed but lifted her chin. Let me answer him. No. Her eyes flashed. You do not lock me away while men decide whether I am danger or property. You are neither. Then stop speaking for me. The words hit harder than expected, because I had been speaking for her. Protecting her, yes, but also placing my will around her like iron. It was what chiefs did, what alphas did, what frightened men did when something mattered too much. Still, fear did not loosen my grip. If you step out their weak, they will smell it. Let them. They will use it. then stand beside me, not in front of me. For a moment, I could only stare at her. Jelani made a low sound under his breath. Ancestors help us. She was made to torment you. I ignored him. Josephine walked past me. Her shoulder brushed my arm. Heat tore through my body. I caught her wrist before I could stop myself. The contact silenced the world. Her pulse beat against my thumb, fast, alive, mine to protect, not own. I forced myself to remember the difference. Her breathing changed, not fear. Something worse. Want. The scent of it struck my wolf like blood in water. Josephine's eyes widened as if she sensed mine answering. The space between us tightened, hot and dangerous. Her lips parted, and for one cursed heartbeat I thought of bending down and tasting the defiance from her mouth in front of God's elders and every gossiping spirit in Nuru. Instead, I leaned close enough that only she could hear me. Tell me to release you. Her throat moved. Would you? Yes. Then release me. I opened my hand. She looked down at her freed wrist, then back at me. Some emotion moved across her face too quickly to name. Good, she whispered. Remember that. Then she stepped outside. The entire market fell quiet. Zuberi stood near the baobab with 6 elders around him, his chest bare, his pride louder than any drum. Villagers filled the spaces between stalls and cooking stones. Spirit fires burned blue in clay bowls. Josephine walked into their gaze with exhaustion in her bones and power in her hands. I stayed one step behind her. Not in front, beside. Zuberi's eyes flicked from her to me, and he understood enough to hate it. Chief, he said carefully, this woman draws curses. This woman saved your chief, Jelani called. And cursed fruit split open with Hollowfang marks at her feet, Zuberi snapped. How many signs do you need? Josephine's voice cut through the rising murmurs. The curse was already here. Everyone turned to her. She lifted her hand. It trembled, but she did not hide it. Kito drank from a river gourd before he fell sick. Dawudi was struck before he reached me. The venom knew my name when I touched it. A cold silence settled. Makena closed her eyes. I stepped closer. What did you say? Josephine looked at me. The curse recognized me. The blue spirit fires bent sideways as a wind moved through the market, though no leaves stirred. Baraka's voice came from the darkness beyond the baobab. Because old blood always recognizes old blood. The blind elder walked forward, guided by a young boy, his clouded eyes fixed on things none of us could see. The crowd parted for him. In his hand, he held the marked fruit from my pouch, the one no flame would burn. Its crescent scar had changed. Now beneath Josephine's name, another mark had appeared. A wolf's claw crossing a broken fang. Baraka faced us both. The ancestors have tied the first knot. Josephine whispered, what does that mean? Before Baraka could answer, a horn sounded from the eastern watch line. Once, twice, then a third time, long and shaking. Enemy sign. Amina was already moving. Jelani drew his blade. A warrior ran into the market, breathless, blood streaking his arm. Chief, at the mango grove boundary, he stopped when he saw Josephine. Fear tightened his voice. They left a message. My claws slid free. What message? The warrior swallowed. A basket of fruit split open and filled with teeth. Josephine went still beside me. My wolf rose, savage and certain. Whatever the Hollowfang wanted with her, they had stopped whispering. Now they were calling.
Author's point of view.
The valley of Nuru held its breath. By the time Dawudi reached the mango grove boundary, the last warning horn still trembled through the trees. Warriors surrounded the place with spears drawn and wolves pacing low through the grass. No bird sang, no insect dared its usual music. At the center of the path sat the basket. It was woven from black reeds, the kind that only grew near the volcanic marshes beyond the eastern mountains. Inside it lay mangoes, guavas, oranges, and pomegranates split open as if invisible hands had torn them apart. Each fruit was filled with teeth, wolf teeth, human teeth, curved, broken, yellowed teeth from mouths that had bitten through pain too long. Josephine stepped forward before anyone could stop her. Dawudi caught her arm. "No." She looked at his hand, then at his face. "That message was sent to me. It was sent to frighten you. Then let me see what fears me." The words moved through the warriors like wind through dry grass. Zubairi's jaw tightened. Jelani's mouth lost its humor. Amina lifted her spear and watched the trees as if the shadows themselves might grow claws. Makena came behind Josephine, her charms rattling softly against her chest. "Child, do not touch it." Josephine did not kneel yet. She studied the basket, the spoiled fruit, the ash ring drawn around it. At the bottom of the circle, burned into the red earth, was the same mark from the market, a broken fang beneath a black moon. Baraka stood beyond the warriors, his blind eyes turned toward the east. "They have stopped hiding behind venom." Dawudi's voice was quiet. That made it more dangerous. Hollowfang. At the sound of the name, several villagers muttered prayers. Josephine knelt. Dawudi went still behind her. The bond between them had not been sealed, but it had already learned fear. It pulled at him when she reached toward the nearest guava, warning and begging at once. "Josephine," he said. She paused, but did not look back. "If I let every curse decide where I put my hands, I am no healer." Then she touched the fruit. The grove vanished from her eyes. The world opened beneath her, far beyond the sacred forests and blood-red rivers, past the lion-grass plains and the old battle stones. The eastern mountains rose like the backs of sleeping beasts. Beneath them lay canyons where sunlight entered thin and weak, where caves breathed heat from the belly of the earth. There the Hollowfang lived, not in villages of open fire and song, in ruins. Broken stone temples clung to canyon walls, old wolf carvings had been scratched blind, bones hung from ropes above cave mouths, pools of black mineral water steamed beneath jagged rock, and from the darkness came the sounds of suffering. Bodies shifting wrong, joints cracking out of rhythm, children crying through teeth too sharp for their mouths. The cursed clan moved through the ruins like survivors of a punishment that had forgotten when to end. Their dark skin was marked with ash and scar tissue. Fur grew in uneven patches along shoulders and spines. Some walked bent beneath the weight of half-formed beasts. Others dragged claws across stone, fighting a change that never completed. At the center of the ruins, on a throne carved from volcanic rock, sat Kivuli. He did not rage. He did not snarl. That was what made him terrifying. He sat calmly, one elbow resting on the arm of the throne, his long locks threaded with bone rings and copper wire. His eyes held the dull silver shine of moonlight, trapped in dirty water. Across his chest, old ritual marks cut deep into muscle. Before him, a Hollowfang child writhed on a mat, caught between boy and beast. His mother held him down while tears ran silently over her cheeks. Kivuli watched the child with no softness on his face, but something in his hand tightened. A scout crawled into the chamber, blood dripping from his split lip. The basket was received. Kivuli did not look away from the suffering boy. And the alpha? Alive. The scout swallowed. The harvest keeper drew the venom out of him. At last, Kivuli smiled. It was not joy. It was confirmation. So the old words were true. From the shadows, an elder woman stepped forward carrying a bundle of bones tied in red thread. Her back was curved, her hair white as river salt, her clouded gaze fixed on nothing mortal. "The prophecy has awakened," she rasped. "Harvest blood has touched alpha blood. The first knot is tied." Kivuli rose. The chamber lowered with him. Even those twisted by the curse bowed their heads. "Speak it," he ordered. The elder scattered the bones across the stone floor. They landed in the shape of a crescent, a fang, and a womb. When the moon fills red and the valley drinks war, she chanted. A son born of harvest keeper, blood, and Hollowfang. Blood shall carry both blessing and curse. If that son's blood is spilled beneath the full blood moon, the old punishment will break. The moon will open her eye again. The rejected will run whole beneath her light. A murmur moved through the Hollowfang. Hope was uglier than rage when it had been starved too long. One warrior stepped forward, his back ridged beneath patchy fur. Dawudi will never allow it. Kivuli turned his head slowly. Dawudi has allowed our children to suffer by doing nothing. He will kill hundreds to keep her. Then hundreds should decide whether one woman is worth generations of agony. The mother on the floor looked up from her struggling son. Will it hurt her? For the first time, silence touched Kivuli's face. Then he said, "Survival hurts everyone." The answer settled over the chamber like ash. Kivuli walked to the child and crouched. The boy's claws had torn his own palms bloody. His jaw trembled between human pain and animal instinct. Kivuli placed one hand on the child's head. "I will free you," he said softly. "All of you." Then his gaze lifted toward the unseen west. "Bring me Josephine before the moon dance." The vision snapped shut. Josephine tore her hand from the guava with a gasp. Dawudi caught her before she fell backward, one arm locking around her waist. The grove returned. The warriors, the trees, the ruined fruit, the basket of teeth, but the cries from the canyon still echoed in her bones. "What did you see?" Dawudi demanded. Josephine could not answer at first. Her throat felt full of smoke. McKenna knelt in front of her, gripping her face between both hands. "Breathe, child," Josephine breathed. Then she looked at Baraka. The blind elder's expression had already changed. He knew. Perhaps he had always known, and only waited for the ancestors to force truth into daylight. "They want a child," Josephine whispered. The grove went silent. Dawudi's arm tightened around her. Jelani cursed under his breath. Amina's spear shifted in her grip. Zuberi stared at Josephine as if she had become a doorway to war. McKenna closed her eyes. "No." Dawudi looked to Baraka. "Speak." Baraka lowered his head. "There is an older prophecy than the one told at your birth." Thunder rolled somewhere beyond the mountains, though the sky above the grove remained clear. "Say it," Dawudi ordered. Baraka's voice was heavy. "If Josephine bears a son carrying Harvest Keeper blood and Hollowfang blood, and that son dies beneath a full blood moon, the Hollowfang curse will break." A sound left Dawudi's chest. Not fully human, not fully wolf. The trees shook with it. "No Hollowfang touches her," he said. Josephine pulled herself from his hold, though her body trembled. "Do not speak of my body as if it is land men are fighting over." His gaze cut to her, burning with fury and something deeper. "I speak of men who would steal you." "Then say that." The command should have angered him. Instead, it steadied him. Dawudi stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she and the nearest spirits could hear. "They will not steal you." Josephine held his stare. "You cannot promise that." His jaw tightened. "I can promise what happens to them if they try." Before she could answer, the basket of teeth began to rattle. One by one, the fruits split wider. Black smoke curled upward, twisting into the shape of a wolf with a broken jaw. It opened its mouth, and Kivuli's calm voice spilled through the grove. "Harvest Keeper, your hands heal strangers. Will they refuse an entire suffering people?" Dawudi's claws slid free. The smoke turned toward him. "Alpha Chief," Kivuli said almost gently, "guard her well." Then the message collapsed into ash. Far away, beyond the eastern mountains, drums began to answer.
I thought they would cancel the moon dance. After the basket of teeth. After Kivuli's voice had crawled from black smoke in the mango grove. After every mother in the village pulled her child closer and every warrior checked the trees twice before breathing. But Amani did not hide from darkness. They painted their skin, sharpened their spears, lit the spirit fires, and told fear to come watch them dance. By sunset, the whole village smelled of shea oil, roasted goat, crushed herbs, and rain waiting somewhere beyond the mountains. Drums had already begun near the ceremonial circle, low and steady, like the valley's heartbeat rising through the soles of my feet. McKenna sat behind me in our hut, threading fresh beads through my braids with fingers that had never learned how to tremble. "Hold still," she said. "I am holding still. You are thinking too loudly." I looked at her through the small bronze mirror Seifa had traded from a northern caravan. "That is not a real complaint. It is when your thoughts invite spirits into my room." I should have smiled. I could not. My basket rested beside the door, filled with mangoes, oranges, guavas, and one dark red pomegranate wrapped in blue cloth. Each fruit had been blessed 3 times. Once by McKenna, once by Baraka, once by me, though my hands still remembered the feeling of cursed teeth and smoke. McKenna dipped 2 fingers into red clay mixed with oil and drew a line down the center of my forehead. "For protection," she said. Then she marked both my wrists. "For choice." That made me look at her. Her eyes were old and deep, full of things she had survived but never spoken of. "Do not let the Alpha's fear become a cage around you." My throat tightened. "I am not his prisoner." "No?" She tied a string of cowrie shells around my waist. "But a frightened man with power can build beautiful cages and call them protection." Dawudi's face rose in my mind. The way he had stood beside me before the elders, the way his hand had released my wrist when I asked, the way his voice had turned almost gentle when he promised the Hollowfang would not steal me. "He is trying," I said quietly. McKenna paused. Then she leaned close, her voice lower than the drums. "So are snakes before they bite." "Grandmother," I did not say he was a snake. Her mouth curved without humor. I said know the difference between warmth and venom. Outside, the drums changed. 3 beats. A pause. 3 again. The calling rhythm. McKenna lifted my basket and placed it in my hands. "Dance like you belong only to your spirit." I stepped into the night. The ceremonial circle burned with color. Blue spirit fires ringed the open ground beneath the great baobab. Women moved through smoke in bright wraps and bronze jewelry. Men stood with painted chests, spears upright, wolf marks drawn across their shoulders. Children sat near elders, eyes wide, faces shining with oil and excitement. Amina danced first with the huntresses. She moved like a blade given breath, spear spinning through firelight, her dark braids whipping against her back. Jelani leaned near one of the posts, grinning at her as if death itself had just performed for him. "You stare too much," I told him as I passed. He startled, then laughed. "Healers should not sneak. Huntresses should not be underestimated." His grin softened for half a heartbeat before he covered it. "Amina would cut off my fingers if she heard you." She heard me. Across the circle, Amina's eyes flicked toward him. Jelani immediately found something else to look at. Despite myself, I smiled. Then my smile died. Dawudi stood on the opposite side of the circle. The chief of Amani looked carved from night, fire, and war. His chest was bare, ancestral scars filled with gold dust and black oil. Red markings crossed his arms in thick bands, and a wolf's jaw had been painted over one shoulder. He wore no crown, he needed none. Every person near him gave him space. But his eyes were on me. Only me. The bond stirred inside my ribs like something waking from sleep. I hated that my body knew him before my mind decided anything. I hated the way heat moved beneath my skin when his gaze lowered to the marks on my wrists. I hated that part of me wanted him to cross the circle and take the basket from my hands, just so his fingers would brush mine. Zubairi stepped into my path before Dawudi could move. His face was painted for war, not celebration. Harvest keeper. Warrior. You should not dance tonight. I lifted a brow. Did the moon appoint you my keeper too? His jaw tightened. The Hollowfang want you. Every eye will be on you. Then let them see I am not shaking. That pride will get people killed. Before I could answer, Dawudi's voice cut through the drums. Move. Zubairi turned, anger flashing. "Chief?" Dawudi did not raise his voice. "I said move." For a moment, I thought Zubairi would refuse. Then he stepped aside. Dawudi came to me, and the circle seemed to shrink around us. The drums continued, but quieter somehow, as if even sound wanted to listen. "You should have told me you were coming into the circle," he said. I did not know I needed permission to attend my own people's ceremony. His nostrils flared. "This is not a simple ceremony anymore." "No, it is a test." I tightened my hold on the basket. "And I will not fail it by hiding." His gaze moved over my face, my beads, the clay marks on my wrists. "For choice," he said. My breath caught. "How did you know?" "McKenna marked her daughters the same way before dangerous vows." "You knew Harvest Keeper customs?" "I know many things I do not speak of." "That must be exhausting." Something dark and amused touched his mouth. "You have no idea." The elder drummer struck one hard beat. The moon dance began. Warriors entered first, feet pounding dust into smoke. Then the mothers. Then the elders. Each circle moved opposite the other, weaving life and death, past and future, wound and healing. The Amani did not dance gently. They gave themselves to the rhythm with shoulders, hips, hands, feet, and throat. They stamped their defiance into the earth until the baobab leaves shook overhead. McKenna nodded to me. My turn. I stepped forward with my basket. The first fruit I lifted was a mango. I held it high and whispered the old words over it, asking the ancestors to take fear from the hearts gathered there and bury it where no enemy could feed from it. The mango warmed in my hands. The crowd began to hum. I danced. At first my body resisted. Too many eyes, too much prophecy, too much Dawudi standing at the edge of the circle like a storm wearing skin. Then the drums found my bones. I turned with the basket against my hip, beads striking my neck, cowries at my waist singing with each step. Around me the spirit fires burned brighter. Blue became blue threaded with gold. The crowd's fear loosened, not gone, but no longer ruling their breath. A young warrior reached for my hand in the partner turn. I let him take it, only for the dance, only for the circle. His hand barely settled at my waist before a growl rolled across the ground. The drums faltered. The warrior dropped his hand as if fire had bitten him. I turned. Dawudi stood inside the circle now. The gold in his scars seemed alive. I should have been angry. I was angry. But beneath it, a dangerous thrill moved through me so quickly I almost stumbled. "You cannot threaten men for knowing the steps," I said. His eyes did not leave mine. I did not threaten him. "You growled." I was deciding whether that counted. A few elders gasped. Jelani coughed into his fist and looked away. I walked toward Dawudi until only the basket stood between us. "If you embarrass me in this circle, I will make you drink bitter root tea every morning until the next dry season." His gaze lowered to my mouth. "Cruel woman." "Careful, chief." The elder drummer, perhaps brave or foolish, began the rhythm again. This time Dawudi held out his hand. The circle watched, so did McKenna. So did every spirit fire. My grandmother's warning whispered through me, beautiful cages, warmth and venom, choice. I placed my hand in his. Heat rushed up my arm. Dawudi pulled me into the dance, not gently, but not carelessly either. His hand settled at my back with enough strength to steady me and enough restraint to remind me he was trying. We moved with the drums, his body all controlled power, mine fighting not to answer too easily. Then the ritual called for blessing. I took the pomegranate from my basket and broke its skin with my thumb. Red juice welled over my fingers. Dawudi went still as I touched the fruit to the center of his chest, directly over the oldest scar. The bond struck. My breath shattered. I saw blood moonlight, a river running backward, Kivuli's hand reaching through smoke, a child crying beneath stone. Then Dawudi caught my wrist. "Josephine." His voice sounded rougher than before. I looked up. The world narrowed to his mouth, his breath, his hand around mine, the drums beating like warning and invitation together. "Tell me to step back," he said. The same words, the same choice. I should have said it. Instead, I rose onto my toes and pressed my mouth to his. For one heartbeat, Dawudi did not move. Then his control broke. His arm locked around my waist and he kissed me like he had been starving in silence. Heat opened between us, fierce and consuming. The basket slipped from my hand, fruit rolling into the dust. The crowd disappeared. The drums became blood. His mouth claimed and asked at the same time, and I answered before fear could teach me shame. The spirit fires roared gold. Somewhere, McKenna whispered my name. Dawudi pulled back only enough to breathe against my lips. His eyes burned. You chose that, he said. Yes. His forehead rested against mine. Then choose carefully what comes next. Before I could answer, the fallen pomegranate split open at our feet. Its seeds spilled out black. From inside the fruit came the sound of distant river water rushing against stone. Baraka turned his blind face toward the eastern dark. The river is calling her, he said, and it is not asking kindly. The river kept calling my name, not with sound, with hunger. Long after the moon dance ended and the last drumbeat faded into the baobab roots, I still heard water rushing beneath every silence. It moved under McKenna's prayers, under the warrior's footsteps, under Dawudi's breathing as he stood outside our hut refusing to leave. The black pomegranate seeds sat in a clay bowl between my knees. They did not rot, they did not dry. They watched. McKenna burned sage grass beside me, her face carved with worry. You should sleep. The river will not let me. The river has taken better women than you. That is not comforting. It was not meant to be. Outside, Dawudi's shadow shifted across the doorway. I felt him before I saw him. That was becoming a dangerous thing. My body had begun recognizing his presence like warmth after rain, like fire before cold hands. I hated how quickly comfort had learned his shape. McKenna looked toward the door. Come in before you wear a path through the dirt. Dawudi stepped inside. He had washed away the festival paint, but gold still clung inside the scars across his chest, as if the spirit fires had marked him permanently. His gaze went first to me, then to the bowl. They moved again, he said. I looked down. The seeds had arranged themselves into a crescent. McKenna swore softly in the old tongue. The river of spirits wants witness, she said. Before sunrise. Dawudi's jaw tightened. No. I laughed once, sharp and tired. You cannot deny a river. I can deny you walking into one while Hollowfang prowl the eastern ridges. You can try. His eyes cut to mine. McKenna rose before his temper could meet mine. Enough. The ritual must be done, but she will not go alone. I will take 20 warriors, Dawudi said. The river does not speak when crowded by spears. Then it can learn. McKenna struck her staff against the floor. The hut shuddered. The river is older than your throne, boy. Silence dropped hard. No one called Dawudi boy. No one breathing, anyway. But he only looked at her, breathing slow through his nose, wolf close beneath his skin. How many? He asked. Josephine, you, me. Baraka, if his bones agree to walk. Seifa to carry herbs, no more. And guards beyond sight, he said. McKenna's mouth tightened. Beyond sight. That was how, before dawn, I found myself walking beneath trees silvered by moonlight, carrying a bowl of black seeds while the alpha of Amani moved beside me like a shadow with teeth. Jelani and Amina vanished somewhere behind us, pretending not to guard us. I knew because Jelani sneezed once, and Amina whispered something that sounded like a threat. The river of spirits waited beyond the last baobab grove. By day, it ran red from the minerals beneath the earth. By moonlight, it looked like blood remembering the sky. Mist curled above it, low and restless. Smooth stones lined the bank, each carved with names of the dead. Baraka stood at the water's edge, blind eyes open to things I was grateful not to see. They are gathered, he said. My fingers tightened around the bowl. Who? Those who were not allowed to finish speaking. Dawudi moved closer. His arm brushed mine. The contact steadied me. I hated that too. McKenna took the bowl from my hands and poured the black seeds into my palms. Step into the river. Ask what it wants. Give it fruit, not blood. And if it wants blood, then you refuse. I looked at her. Can I refuse a spirit? You had better learn. The water was cold enough to bite. I walked in until it reached my knees, then my thighs. The current wrapped around me like fingers. Dawudi remained on the bank, every muscle in him locked. I lifted the seeds. I am Josephine of the Harvest Keepers, I said, voice trembling only once. Daughter of women who fed the living and listened to the dead. If you call me, speak. The river stilled. Then every seed in my hands split open. Voices rushed out, women crying, children gasping, wolves howling from beneath stone. The water climbed my body, though I had not moved deeper. It rose to my waist, my ribs, my throat. Josephine! Dawudi barked. McKenna shouted something, but the river swallowed it. A woman's voice pressed against my ear. Heal what was cursed, carry what was buried. I don't understand. The current yanked. My feet left the stones. The world turned red and black. Water filled my mouth before I could scream. I saw faces beneath the surface, not dead, not alive, their eyes full of accusation. A child reached for me with fingers half curled like claws. Behind him stood Kavuli, not as he was now, but younger, kneeling beside a body wrapped in funeral cloth. Then another image. Dawudi as a boy, standing beneath a blood moon while elders cut the first ancestral scar into his chest. He did not cry. That was worse. Something coiled around my ankle and dragged me down. A roar split the river. Dawudi hit the water like a thrown spear. His arm locked around my waist and the thing around my ankle recoiled as if burned. I clawed at him, choking, but he held me with brutal certainty and kicked upward. We broke the surface together. Air tore into my lungs. The storm came from nowhere. Rain slammed down. Thunder rolled over the trees. McKenna and Sefa were shouting from the bank, but Dawudi did not take me back there. A wave rose between us and the others, high as a wall, forcing him towards the volcanic rocks downstream. He cursed, shifted his grip, and fought the river with one arm around me. Hold on to me, he growled. I am. Harder. I wrapped both arms around his neck. His body became my shore. The river threw us against a stone ledge. Pain flashed through my hip. Dawudi took the worst of it with his shoulder, teeth bared, then hauled us into the mouth of a cave hidden behind hanging vines. Inside, darkness breathed warm from the earth. For a moment, neither of us moved. I lay beneath him on black stone, coughing water, his body braced above mine, his chest heaving against my hands. Josephine, his voice broke around my name. Look at me. I did. The terror in his face frightened me more than the river. I'm alive, I whispered. His hand cupped the side of my face. Do not ever make me pull you from death again. I did not do it for pleasure. Do not joke. I am scared too. That stopped him. Rain hammered outside the cave, sealing us away from the world. Slowly, Dawudi sat back and pulled me with him. My clothes clung cold to my skin, and I began to shake. He noticed immediately. We need warmth. I can manage. You are shaking so hard your teeth are arguing. Despite everything, a breath of laughter escaped me. He looked towards the cave mouth, then back at me. I will turn around, remove the wet cloth. My laughter vanished. His gaze held mine, fierce but controlled. Only if you choose it. There it was again. Choice. My fingers trembled as I untied my wrap. Turn around then. He did. The Alpha tribal chief of Amani faced a wall like obedience had been carved into his spine, while I stripped out of soaked fabric and wrapped myself in the dry hide he pulled from a travel pouch. When he turned back, his eyes darkened. Not with cruelty, with restraint. He removed his own wet cloth and sat beside me, bare chest marked with scars and rain. Then he opened his arm. For warmth, he said. Only warmth. His mouth tightened. Do not test a starving wolf if you do not want teeth near your throat. Heat moved through me, slow and dangerous, but I crawled into his arms anyway. His skin burned against mine. He wrapped the hide around us both, holding me close enough that my ear rested over his heart. It beat too fast, for me. "I saw you," I whispered. His body went still, in the river, as a boy, under the blood moon. His breath changed. That memory belongs to the ancestors. They showed me. They had no right. What did they do to you? For a long time he said nothing. Then his chin lowered against my damp braids. They made a child bleed, so a chief would not fear pain. My throat tightened. I touched the edge of one scar. He caught my wrist, but not to stop me completely. "To touch them is to wake things," he warned. "Then maybe they need waking." Outside, something howled across the river. Not wolf, not hyena, Hollowfang. Dawudi pulled me closer, his claws sliding free beneath the hide, and under my fingertips, the oldest scar on his chest began to glow. The oldest scar on Dawudi's chest began to glow beneath my fingertips, not like fire, like memory. Gold light moved through the raised mark, slow and alive, tracing the deep line cut across his heart. Outside the cave, rain struck the stones in hard sheets. Somewhere beyond the river, a Hollowfang howl dragged through the storm. Dawudi's hand closed over my wrist. "Move your hand." His voice was calm. Too calm. I looked up at him. "Does it hurt?" "Yes." I tried to pull away, but the scar held me, not his hand. The scar. Heat climbed into my palm, not burning my skin, but searching beneath it. My breath caught. The cave walls seemed to lean closer, black stone glistening with rainwater and spirit light. "Josephine," Dawudi warned. "I can't." His eyes darkened. The wolf inside him pressed near the surface, not angry at me, but at whatever had dared touch us both. Then the scar pulsed. The cave vanished. I stood in fire, blue fire. It rose around me in a circle beneath an open sky filled with a blood moon. Drums sounded from somewhere deep underground. The air smelled of iron, incense, and crushed pomegranate. Before me knelt a boy, Dawudi, no older than 10. His shoulders were straight. His hands were curled into fists on his thighs. His face held no tears, no plea, no child softness allowed to survive. Around him stood elders painted in black ash and gold oil, their mouths moving in chants that made the flames bend. One man held an obsidian blade. A woman stood behind the circle, restrained by 2 warriors. She had Dawudi's eyes, his mother. "Do not cut him again," she begged. "He is a child." An elder struck the ground with a staff. "He is a chief born beneath curse. Pain must learn his name before fear does." The blade touched Dawudi's chest. I felt the cut, as if it opened beneath my own skin. The boy did not cry. He bit the inside of his mouth until blood ran down his chin. Rage filled me so fast the fire bent toward it. "Who made this holy?" I demanded. The elders turned. Their faces were smoke. "Survival," they answered together. "No," I said. "Cruelty wearing ancestral beads." The flames snapped upward. The vision changed. I stood in the valley of Nuru before the clans were divided by hatred. Amani warriors danced beside another people beneath moonlight. The Hollowfang were whole then, tall, proud, fierce-eyed, their wolves moving beside them like shadows with breath. Children ran between both clans with painted hands and laughing mouths. At the center of the gathering stood 3 leaders. An Amani chief with Dawudi's face carved into older bone, a Hollowfang chief wearing a necklace of volcanic stone, and a harvest keeper woman whose braids were threaded with pomegranate seeds. She looked like me, or I looked like her. Together, they placed their hands over a bowl of red fruit and blood. The harvest keeper spoke first. "No bloodline shall be abandoned beneath the moon," the Amani chief said. "No power shall be taken without consent." The Hollowfang chief said, "No child shall pay for the hunger of elders." The words struck my chest. A vow, older than the curse, older than the war. Then the moon above them darkened. The vision cracked. Screams tore through the night. I saw a temple beneath the eastern mountains. I saw forbidden symbols painted in blood. I saw Hollowfang priests trying to force the moon to answer them. I saw Amani spears at the canyon mouth. I saw harvest keepers carrying baskets of fruit that turned black in their hands. Then, I saw something else. A fourth figure standing behind the fire. Hidden, watching. When I tried to see the face, ancestral flames rushed between us. "Not yet," a voice hissed. I spun toward it. "What are you hiding?" The fire formed a wall of faces. Old chiefs, dead mothers, warriors buried with their spears, harvest keepers whose names had been swallowed by dust. One voice rose above the rest. The curse was not born from one hand. Another answered, sharper. Silence. The flames turned violent. I saw Dawudi's ancestral scars glowing like locks across his chest. Each one held a memory. Each one held pain. Each one held a door the living were never meant to open. Then a child's voice whispered from inside the fire. "Not my death." I froze. The voice came again, trembling. "Remember my name." Before I could reach for it, something shoved me backward. I slammed into my body with a gasp. The cave returned. Dawudi was bent over me, one arm braced against the stone. His jaw clenched so hard a vein stood in his neck. Every scar across his chest burned gold. Too bright, too hot. "Stop it," I whispered. His breath came rough. "I am not doing it." The scars pulsed again. Dawudi's body jerked. Fear cut through me. I searched the cave, desperate for fruit, herbs, anything living that could hold what his body could not. Near the wall, half hidden beneath hanging roots, grew small cave figs, dark and round from the damp earth. I lunged for them. Dawudi caught my arm. "No. You are burning from the inside, and you are not feeding yourself to my ancestors. I am not asking permission." His eyes flashed. "Josephine." I ripped free and snatched one fig from the root. The moment I pressed it to his glowing scar, the fruit shriveled in my palm. Heat poured from him into it, thick and furious, my vision blurred, my knees weakened. Still, I held on. "Take it," I breathed. "Take what was never his to carry." The fig split. Black smoke leaked from its center. Dawudi dragged me against him before I fell. His arms locked around me, shaking with restraint and anger. "You keep doing this," he said against my hair. "Saving you? Spending yourself like your life is spare cloth." I pressed my forehead to his chest. The scars had dimmed, but warmth still moved beneath them. Then stopped needing to be saved. A harsh laugh left him. It sounded almost broken. He reached for the travel pouch near the stone and pulled out dried mango wrapped in leaf. "Eat." "I am not hungry." "Lie better." He lifted a piece to my mouth. I should have argued. Instead, I let him feed me. The mango was sweet, sharp, grounding. His fingers brushed my lower lip, and the bond between us stirred, warm despite the storm. He watched me swallow like that alone kept him alive. "You saw something," he said. I nodded. His hand remained at my waist. "Tell me." I touched the scar over his heart, softer this time. "Your ancestors made pain into a crown and called it duty." His gaze shifted away. "That is not new." I saw the Hollowfang before the curse. Now he looked at me. "They were not always monsters in your stories," I said. "They were allies. There was a vow between Amani, Hollowfang, and harvest keepers." Dawudi went still. "What vow?" "No bloodline abandoned, no power taken without consent, no child sacrificed for elders' hunger." The cave fell silent except for rain. Dawudi's expression hardened, but not at me, at history, at the dead. "Those words are not in our records." "I know." The blackened fig in my palm cracked open. Inside, its seeds glowed red. They rolled onto the cave floor and arranged themselves into a symbol I had never seen before, a circle split by a fang, a flame, and a child's handprint. Dawudi stared at it. His voice dropped. "That mark is forbidden." I looked at him. "You know it?" "My father carved it off the old burial doors when I was 13. He said it belonged to traitors." From deeper inside the cave, beyond the reach of rain and firelight, a child began to cry. Not loudly, not near, but clearly. "Harvest Keeper," the small voice called. Dawudi's claws slid free. "Do not answer." The voice came again, softer this time. Your mother answered once. My blood turned cold. I looked into the darkness of the cave, and the darkness whispered my name.
The darkness spoke Josephine's name, and every scar on my chest answered with fire. I moved before she could breathe. One moment she was beside me beneath the hide, warm from my body and trembling from the river's touch. The next, I had her behind me, my arm barring her waist, claws sliding from my fingers as the cave swallowed the last sound of rain. "Do not answer," I said. Josephine's hand pressed against my arm. It mentioned my mother. That is why it is lying. And if it is not, then the dead can wait until morning. The child's cry drifted from deeper inside the cave, soft, broken, too perfect. "Harvest Keeper," it whimpered. "She left something for you." Josephine went still against me. I felt her heart change. That was the cruelty of spirits. They never came through doors men could guard. They entered through grief, through blood, through the name of someone you had never finished mourning. I turned my head enough to catch her gaze. "Look at me." She did. Her eyes were wide, but not weak. Never weak. Even frightened, Josephine looked like someone who would stand between death and a stranger with nothing but fruit and stubbornness. "I will go first," I said. "You stay close enough to touch me. If I tell you to run, you run. I'm tired of men telling me when to run. I'm not men." Her mouth tightened. "No, you are worse." A sound almost left me. Not laughter. Something too wounded for that. Then the cave breathed. Not wind, breath, rotten fruit, wet fur, volcanic ash, old blood, Hollowfang. I shoved Josephine back just as the first dart struck my shoulder. Moonbane venom burned through my veins. I ripped the dart free and roared. The cave erupted. They came from the walls. Half-shifted bodies dropped from cracks in the stone, their limbs bent wrong from generations of cursed transformation. Deep brown skin showed beneath patchy dark fur. Their jaws split wider than any true wolf's should. Their clouded eyes caught the gold of my scars and reflected it like dead moons. One lunged for Josephine. I caught it by the throat and crushed it into the stone. Another came low with bone knives. I split his chest open with my claws before his blade reached my thigh. A third leapt onto my back, teeth sinking into my shoulder. Pain sharpened the world. Josephine shouted my name. I felt her power rise behind me. "No," I barked. Too late. She seized a cave fig from the roots and drove it against the bite in my shoulder. The fruit blackened instantly, drinking venom from my blood. Her knees buckled. Fury blinded me. Not at her. For her. Always for her. I tore the Hollowfang from my back and hurled him into two more. Stone cracked. Bones followed. "Stop spending yourself on me," I growled. "Then stop being wounded," she snapped. A laugh came from the darkness, calm, amused. Kivuli stepped into the gold light of my burning scars. He wore no war paint, no crown. Only a cloak stitched from black hide and red thread. Curse marks twisted along his arms, raised and dark, and one side of his jaw held the wrong shape beneath his skin, as if the beast inside him had tried to escape and failed. His gaze moved past me to Josephine, not hungry like a man, hungry like a dying people. "Harvest Keeper," he said softly. "You heard the child." I placed myself fully before her. "Speak to me." His smile did not reach his eyes. "You are not the one history buried. You entered my land. Your ancestors entered ours first. I will remove your tongue before I allow you to teach me grief." Kivuli tilted his head. Still believing violence is inheritance. How proud they must be. The scars across my chest flared. Josephine inhaled sharply behind me. Kivuli noticed. Of course he did. Ah, he murmured. She opened the locks. The cave floor split. It happened beneath Josephine. One heartbeat, her hand was against my back. The next, the stone below her feet opened like a mouth. I turned and caught her wrist. For one breath, I had her. Her fingers dug into mine. Her braids swung over the black gap, beads clattering against stone. Beneath her, water rushed through an underground channel, red, black, and violent. Dawudi! I tightened my grip until my bones screamed. I have you. Kivuli lifted one hand. The blackened fig Josephine had used on me burst apart. Smoke struck my face, thick with moonbane and spirit ash. My arm weakened for half a heartbeat. That was all they needed. A net woven from bone vines snapped around Josephine's body and yanked her down. Her fingers tore from mine. The sound that left me was not human. I dove after her, but the stone slammed shut between us. My claws struck rock until sparks flew. I broke nails, split skin, drove my shoulder into the sealed floor hard enough to shake the cave. Kivuli's voice came from the darkness. She will not be harmed tonight. I turned toward him. He should have run. Instead, he watched me with that quiet, terrible patience. She is not your womb to claim, I said. His expression changed then. The first crack in his calm. No, she is the key to my people breathing without pain. She is a woman. She is both. I lunged. He vanished into smoke and ash. Only his voice remained. Come find her, Chief of Amani. But ask yourself why your ancestors hid the door from you. The cave emptied. Rain returned. My blood roared so loudly I almost did not hear Jelani calling from outside. I broke through the vines and came into the storm on all fours. Jelani froze when he saw me. Amina appeared behind him, spear raised, eyes narrowing at the blood on my chest, my arms, my mouth. Where is she? Jelani asked. I could not answer with words. The wolf took me. We ran. Through lying grass bent by rain, across red mud and stone, past spirit fires burning blue in the distant village. I followed Josephine's scent beneath everything. River water, mango oil, fear, defiance, the faint sweetness of her blood where the bone net had cut her skin. Jelani kept pace to my right, in wolf form, lean and dark, his growl a promise. Amina ran behind us, human still, fast as an arrow, never asking me to slow. We found the Hollowfang camp before dawn. Not their true canyon, a raiding camp, 20, maybe 30 of them, hidden in volcanic ruins beneath thorn trees. Fires burned low, weapons lay ready. They had expected pursuit. Good, I gave them what they expected. I hit the first guard before he raised his horn. The camp exploded into screams. I do not remember every kill. That truth should shame me. It does not. I remember claws in my skin, bone spears snapping, a Hollowfang warrior laughing until I broke his jaw, another calling me cursed chief as if I had not been named worse by my own ancestors. I remember the taste of rain and blood. I remember searching every tent, every cage, every shadow. No Josephine. Only her broken waist, bead near cooking pit, blue glass, a cowrie shell, a thread from the wrap McKenna had tied around her. Something inside me went silent. That silence was worse than rage. A young Hollowfang fighter crawled backward through the mud, one arm hanging useless at his side. He could not have seen more than 16 reigns as a warrior, old enough to lift a blade, young enough for fear to still own his face. He dropped his knife. Mercy, he rasped. My claws rose. Jelani slammed into me from the side. Chief, I threw him off. He came back, this time in human form, arms locked around my waist, feet dragging trenches in the mud as he fought to hold me. Dawudi. She would not want this, I snarled in his face. He did not move. Loyal fool. Deadly fool. Brother, Amina stepped between me and the boy with her spear across her body. "Fine, Josephine," she said, voice hard. "Do not become the story Kivuli once told." The words struck deeper than any blade. Slowly, my claws lowered. The boy sobbed into the mud. I turned away before I changed my mind. At the center of the camp, Baraka stood beside the dead fire. I did not ask how the blind elder had reached us. Men like Baraka traveled on roads the living could not see. He held Josephine's basket in both hands, empty except for one pomegranate. Its skin had been carved with a message, not in ink, in tooth marks. "The womb of ash, before moonrise. Come alone, or hear her scream through the mountains." My vision sharpened until the whole world became the fruit in Baraka's hands. "Who opened the cave door?" I asked. Baraka's blind eyes lifted towards me. Rain ran down his lined face like tears he would never admit to shedding. "Someone with Amani blood," he said. Jalani cursed under his breath. Amina looked toward the dark ridge where the eastern mountains waited. I took the pomegranate from Baraka. It pulsed once in my hand. Josephine was alive, terrified, furious, breathing, mine to protect, herself to choose. I looked toward the mountains and let the wolf rise behind my eyes. "Then we find the one who betrayed us," I said, "after I bring my mate home."
I woke up with ash on my tongue. For one terrible moment, I thought I had drowned after all, that the river of spirits had dragged me beneath its red-black throat and delivered me to the dead. But the dead did not breathe like this place breathed. Hot, wet, hungry. The womb of ash curved around me in the shape of a giant belly carved beneath the mountain. Black stone walls rose high above my head, veined with dull red heat. Smoke slipped through cracks in the ground. Somewhere below, molten earth groaned like an animal turning in its sleep. Bone vine bound my wrists. Not tight enough to cut deeply, just tight enough to remind me I had been taken. My basket sat beyond reach beside an obsidian pillar, the fruits inside glowing faintly beneath a layer of ash. I tried to sit up. Pain answered from my ribs, my shoulder, my hip. The river had bruised me, the net had bitten me. Fear had done the rest. Then I felt him. Dawudi, not near. Never near enough, but alive. His rage moved through the bond like thunder trapped under skin. It rolled into me, hot and violent, and for one breath I almost smiled. He was coming. Ancestors, help anyone standing between us. "You feel him," Kivuli said. I turned sharply. He stood near the mouth of the chamber, still as a shadow that had learned patience. Behind him, Hollowfang moved through the ash-dark tunnels. Warriors with twisted shoulders, women carrying children whose little bodies shook with broken shifts, elders dragging breaths through teeth too sharp for their mouths. Monsters, the Amani called them. But monsters did not cradle crying babies against their chests. Monsters did not look at me with hope. That was worse. Hope could make people crueler than hatred ever could. Kivuli walked toward me without hurry. "Your alpha received my message." "Then you should start praying." "To whom?" His mouth curved without warmth. "The moon that rejected us? The ancestors who sealed their shame in our bones?" I pulled against the vines. "Untie me." "No." "At least be honest with yourself. You did not bring me here to talk." "I brought you here because talking failed generations before either of us had names." He crouched in front of me. Up close, the curse marked him more brutally than distance allowed. One side of his jaw sat uneven beneath his skin. Dark veins branched along his throat like roots burned into flesh. His eyes were clouded at the edges, but sharp in the center. Dangerous eyes. Suffering eyes. I hated that both could live in the same face. "You called to me from the cave," I said, with a child's voice. "No." Kivuli glanced towards the deeper chamber. The child called. I only opened the way. My blood cooled. Who was he? The first price. The words settled between us like falling ash. Kivuli rose and took my basket from beside the pillar. He did not hand it to me. He carried it towards the far wall where ancient carvings covered the stone. 3 hands, a fang, a flame, a child's print, the same symbol the seeds had formed in the cave. The Amani tell the story badly, he said. They say Hollowfang priests became greedy. They say we tried to steal moon power. They say the curse was justice. And what do you say? I say justice does not twist babies in their mother's arms. My throat tightened despite myself. He touched the carved child's print with 2 fingers. Once, Hollowfang guarded the eastern volcanic gates. Amani guarded the sacred laws. Harvest keepers guarded life itself. 3 clans, 1 vow. I whispered it before I could stop myself. No bloodline abandoned, no power taken without consent, no child sacrificed. Kivuli's gaze snapped to mine. For the first time, his calm cracked. You saw it. I saw enough. No. His voice lowered. You saw what they allowed you to see. The wall trembled beneath his hand. Ash lifted from the carvings. Images formed in the smoke. I saw the old temple again. Hollowfang priests surrounding a crying boy, a harvest keeper woman bound at the wrists, Amani warriors standing at the entrance, not entering, not stopping it. Above them all hung a blood moon. The priest broke the vow first, Kivuli said. They forced power from a harvest keeper womb and tried to pour it into a child of our blood. They believed if one child could carry all 3 gifts, wolf, fruit, and ancestral fire, he would become a bridge between moon and earth. My stomach turned. What happened to him? Kivuli's face became stone. They killed him before the ritual finished. The child's voice shivered through my memory. Not my death. Remember my name. What was his name? I asked. Kivuli looked away. That told me he knew. That told me he had chosen not to speak it. The moon recoiled, he continued. Our wolves broke inside us. Our bodies began shifting without blessing. Our children inherited agony. The Amani called us cursed and drove us into the canyons. The harvest keepers hid the missing verses. Everyone survived by making us the only villains. And now you want to repeat the same sin? His eyes returned to me. No, I want to finish what was interrupted. My heart began beating harder. Kivuli reached into my basket and withdrew a pomegranate. Its skin was blackened where his claws touched it. The prophecy says a son born of harvest keeper blood and Hollowfang blood must die beneath the full blood moon. His blood will open the curse. His spirit will carry our suffering back to the ancestors. Then my people will shift whole again. For a moment, I could not breathe. The chamber seemed to shrink around me. You are saying you brought me here to breed a child for slaughter. I brought you here to save a people who have screamed for mercy for centuries. I am not mercy if you have to bind my wrists. His jaw tightened. Good. Let the truth wound him. You speak of consent, I said, lifting my bound hands. Look at me, Kivuli. He did. Look at what you have already broken. Something moved behind his eyes. Not guilt. Not enough of it. A woman emerged from the tunnel carrying a small boy against her shoulder. His limbs jerked beneath the thin hide wrapped around him. His breath rattled wetly. Please, she whispered to Kivuli, the child cannot hold the beast. Kivuli did not look away from me. Heal him. I laughed once, bitter and afraid. So this is how you prove your righteousness? The mother fell to her knees. That broke me. Not Kivuli. Her. I hated him for knowing it would. Bring me a fruit, I said. Kivuli placed a fig in my hand. The moment I touched the boy's forehead, the curse surged toward me like a swarm of burning ants. I pressed the fig to his chest and pulled. Pain ripped through my arms. The fruit swelled, darkened, split. The boy gasped. His body loosened. His mother sobbed into his hair, rocking him as if I had handed her the sun. The Hollowfang around us stared. Kivuli stared hardest of all. You see? He said softly. You are the door. No, I whispered, swaying. I am the warning. Because I had felt it. not just sickness, not just curse. A lock, and beneath it fire enough to consume every clan in the valley if opened with innocent blood. The prophecy was not a promise of salvation. It was a blade held by fools. Kivuli stepped closer. You will understand. I already do. From somewhere far above us, a roar shook dust from the ceiling. Dawudi. Kivuli smiled. He came faster than I expected. I gathered every piece of strength left inside me and shoved one thought through the burning bond. Do not come alone. The mountain answered with another roar, closer this time. Kivuli bent, cut the vines from my wrists, and caught my arm before I could strike him. Come, Harvest Keeper, he said. Let us see whether love makes an alpha wise, or easy to kill. And in the deepest chamber of the womb of ash, drums began to beat.
The womb of ash opened beneath the eastern mountain like a throat, and I walked into it as if I had come alone. I had not. Josephine's warning still burned through the bond. Do not come alone. So Jelani had taken 6 warriors through the underground river vein. Amina climbed the ash ridge above the cavern with a bow and 20 arrows blessed in blue fire. Baraka waited beyond the mouth of the mountain, speaking to dead things I did not trust but needed. I entered where Kivuli wanted me, visible. Furious, a chief-shaped offering, the deeper chamber pulsed with red heat. Drums beat against the stone like a second heart. Hollowfang surrounded the ritual circle, warriors, elders, mothers clutching shaking children. Their twisted shifts trembled beneath their skin, curse and wolf fighting for the same bones. Then I saw her. Josephine stood beside an obsidian pillar, ash in her braids, wrists marked by bone vine cuts, chin lifted as if fear had no right to bow her head. Relief struck me so hard it became pain. Her eyes met mine, alive, mine to protect, herself to choose. Kivuli stood behind her with a black blade resting near her shoulder. You came, he said. I did. Alone? I smiled without warmth. You asked for the Alpha Chief. That is what stands before you. His gaze narrowed. Josephine gave the smallest shake of her head. Do not let rage make you stupid. Even taken, wounded, exhausted, she was still trying to command my blood. Kivuli dragged the blade lightly across the air, not cutting her, only promising he could. Kneel, Dawudi. Let your ancestors watch their favorite weapon, learn humility. My clothes slid free. If you wanted me humble, you should not have touched my mate. The drums stopped. So did the mountain. That was Amina's signal. An arrow hissed from the smoke above and buried itself in the largest drum. Blue fire burst across the hide. Jelani's roar answered from below. The river wall exploded inward. Amani warriors surged through steam and ash. The chamber became war. I crossed the ritual circle in 3 strides. Hollowfang threw themselves between us. I broke through them with teeth, claws, and the kind of rage that had frightened men long before prophecy named me cursed. One warrior struck my ribs with a bone spear. I snapped it and drove him into the stone. Another came for my throat. I tore him away and threw him aside when I saw the child behind him. Not children, not unless they gave me no choice. Josephine's voice cut through the violence. Dawudi! Kivuli had her by the arm. The black blade pressed against her wrist now. Blood welled. The world went silent. My wolf lunged inside me, ready to tear through skin, bone, law, mercy. Kivuli saw it and smiled. There he is. I moved. So did Josephine. She snatched a pomegranate from her basket and smashed it against the obsidian pillar. The fruit burst open, black seeds scattering across the ash. The chamber screamed. Not the people, the stone. A wave of Harvest Keeper power struck the ritual circle. Kivuli stumbled back, his grip loosening for one breath. One breath was enough. I reached her. My claws cut through the remaining vines. I pulled Josephine behind me, shielding her with my body as Kivuli recovered and came at me with the blade. Moonbane kissed my shoulder. Fire tore into my veins. I snarled and caught his wrist before he could strike again. His curse-blackened veins bulged beneath my grip. For the first time, effort showed on his face. "You speak of saving your people," I growled, forcing him down inch by inch. "But you built your salvation on a woman's body and a child's grave." His eyes flashed. "Your ancestors built our suffering. Then I will answer for my blood. You will answer for yours." I drove him to one knee. My claws lifted for his throat. Josephine grabbed my arm. "Not here," she said, breath shaking. "Not over there, children." I looked past Kivuli, at the Hollowfang mothers, at the little boy Josephine had healed, held tight against his mother's chest, at the frightened hope turning to horror. Kivuli wanted a monster for his story. I would not give him one. My claws stopped against his skin. Kivuli's smile returned, bitter and knowing. "You hesitate because she holds your leash." "No," I said. "I choose because she reminds me I have one." Smoke burst from the ground between us. Kivuli vanished into the ash channel beneath the pillar. His voice rose from the darkness. "Ask your council who opened the cave, chief. The betrayal sleeps closer than your enemies." I would have followed. Then Josephine swayed. Everything in me abandoned the hunt. I caught her before she hit the ground. Her head fell against my chest. Her fingers curled weakly over my scars, and the bond between us flickered with pain, exhaustion, and stubborn life. "Take me away from here," she whispered. I lifted her into my arms. "No one stops me," I said to the chamber. No one did. Not even the mountain. We reached an upper spring before dawn. Steam rose from the warm water, carrying the scent of minerals, baobab oil, and crushed leaves. Sefer had pressed into my hand before wisely leaving us alone. Josephine sat on a flat stone, wrapped in my cloak, silent since the escape. That frightened me more than screaming would have. I knelt before her. "May I wash the ash from you?" Her throat moved. Then she nodded. I dipped cloth into warm water and started with her wrists. The vine marks circled them like accusations. My hands that had broken warriors without shaking, trembled against her skin. Her eyes filled. I stopped breathing. "I thought," she whispered, "he would make my body into a doorway. I thought he would put a child in me just to kill him." The cloth tore in my fist. Rage rose so fast the spring water rippled. Josephine touched my jaw. "Stay with me." I shut my eyes, forced air into my lungs, forced the wolf back behind my teeth. When I opened my eyes, tears had slipped down her face. I caught them with my thumb as if I could return them to her. "No man," I said, voice rough, "will put prophecy inside you by force. Not Kivuli. Not an ancestor. Not me." Her gaze held mine. "Not you?" The question cut deeper than Moonbane. I bowed my head until my forehead rested against her knees. "I have called you mine, as if the word could protect you from the world. It can sound like a cage. I know. Do you?" I looked up at her. "If I say mine, Josephine, I mean my soul recognized yours before my pride understood what was happening. I mean I will stand between you and every blade. I mean if you choose me, I will honor that choice until my bones become dust." My voice broke. "But your body is yours. Your yes is yours. Your no will stop me faster than any spear." She stared at me for a long moment. Then she leaned down and kissed my forehead. That almost undid me. I rose carefully, giving her space to refuse. She did not. She pulled me to her. The kiss was not gentle at first. It was fear finding a mouth, relief becoming teeth and breath. Her hands clutched my shoulders, then my scars, as if counting me alive. I held her face between my palms and kissed her, like I had crawled out of death for the right to touch her again. When she trembled, I slowed. When she pressed closer, I wrapped my arms around her and let my rage become shelter. I was afraid. I admitted against her mouth. Her fingers stilled. I have faced armies, I said. Buried brothers, challenged elders, carried cursed scars since childhood. None of it frightened me like the place where your hand slipped from mine. Her eyes softened in a way that hurt. I am here, she whispered. I know. Then stop looking like you are still losing me. I laughed once, broken and quiet. Then I fed her slices of mango from Sefa's pouch until color returned to her face and she cursed me for being bossy. I painted baobab oil and red ochre over the cuts on her wrists, not as ownership, but as witness. She took the bowl from me afterward. With her thumb, she marked the oldest scar over my heart. For truth, she said. The mark burned warm. Outside the spring hollow, Jelani cleared his throat. Chief, he called, softer than usual. Sorry to interrupt whatever sacred married people thing this is, but you need to see something. Josephine tightened my cloak around herself. We go together. I did not argue. Outside, Jelani held up a broken bead cord. Black, gold, Amani made. Only inner warriors wore that pattern. Baraka stood beside him, blind eyes turned toward the waking sky. The blood that opened the cave, the elder said, sits inside your own house. Josephine's hand found mine. My rage went cold. Not gone, sharper. Behind us, the mountain breathed ash into the dawn. War did not begin with a horn. It began with a broken bead cord warming in my fist. By the time we returned to Amani, dawn had dragged red light over the baobab roofs, but the village had not slept. Women stood outside their huts with children pressed against their legs. Warriors lined the paths in wolf and human form. The spirit fires burned blue in every clay bowl. Danger had already entered before we brought its name home. Josephine walked beside me, wrapped in my cloak, ash still caught in her braids, her wrist marked where bone vine had bitten her skin. Every eye turned toward her, some with relief, some with fear, one with guilt. I felt it before I saw him. Zuberi stood near the war hut, broad-shouldered, jaw tight, his spear planted beside him. He had fought beside me since I was 17 reigns old. He had taken a hyena spear meant for my ribs. He had buried brothers with me. He had eaten from my fire, and his right wrist was bare. The black and gold cord in my hand seemed to pulse. Jelani noticed at the same time I did. Blood clot, he muttered under his breath. I said nothing. Silence was sharper. I entered the war hut, and everyone followed. The council fire burned in the center pit. Around it stood Baraka, Makena, Sefa, Amina, Jelani, the inner warriors, and the elders who liked to pretend age made cowardice sound like wisdom. I tossed the broken cord into the dirt. Who lost this? No one breathed. The beads were not decoration. Black for night patrol, gold for oath. Only my inner guard wore them. Only men trusted near my sleeping place, my council chamber, my war maps, my home. Josephine's fingers brushed mine, not to soften me, to steady me. Zuberi looked at the cord, then at me. Many men wear beads. Not these. His nostrils flared. You accuse me in front of outsiders? Jelani stepped forward. Careful now, brother. That word getting mighty tired in your mouth. Zuberi's eyes cut to him. You would defend her before your own blood. My blood? Jelani laughed without humor. My blood has been spilled on this soil enough times to buy land. Enough, I said. The hut stilled again. I crossed the space between Zuberi and me. He did not lower his gaze. That almost made it worse. Shame should have bent him. Fear should have scented his skin. But there was only bitterness. Show me your hand, I ordered. His mouth hardened. Now. Slowly, he lifted his right hand. A fresh cut marked his palm. Clean. Deep. Made by intention, not battle. Baraka turned his blind face toward the fire. The hidden door beneath the cave required Amani blood. Josephine inhaled sharply beside me. Zuberi's gaze flickered toward her. There. That small betrayal before the larger one. I caught him by the throat and drove him against the wooden post. Spears lifted around us, but no one dared step between my hand and his windpipe. Tell me why, I said quietly. Before my wolf decides words are wasted. Zuberi's lips peeled back. I did it for Amani. The hut erupted. Makena cursed him in a language older than the first fires. Amina drew her blade halfway from its sheath. Jelani looked as if someone had struck him in the chest. Josephine did not move. A stillness frightened me. For Amani? I repeated. You were blinded, Zuberi rasped. By her scent, by her touch, by prophecy. You let a harvest keeper woman walk into the heart of our clan, and every spirit fire changed color. Hollowfang came because of her. No, Josephine said softly. Hollowfang came because men keep believing women's bodies are doors they have the right to open. Zuberi's eyes flashed. You brought ruin. She saved my life, I growled, and made you weak. My grip tightened. Bones shifted beneath my fingers. Zuberi choked but still forced the words out. Kivuli promised she would be taken away from Amani Lands. He promised no child of ours would suffer for her curse. Josephine's voice cut through the hut. You knew about the child. Zuberi looked at her then, not with desire, with calculation. The council fire snapped blue. The prophecy spoke of one unborn life, he said, against every life in this valley. Makena moved so fast, even I nearly missed it. She struck him across the face. The sound cracked through the war hut. You made a grave for a child not yet conceived, she said, trembling with rage, and called it protection. Zuberi spat blood onto the dirt. Old woman, you hid this danger in your bloodline, and you opened the cave to monsters. They are already monsters. No, Josephine said. They are cursed. You chose to become cruel. His face twisted. I released his throat and stepped back before I killed him without judgment. Bind him, I said. Two warriors moved. Zuberi laughed. That laugh scraped every nerve in my body. You think I opened one door? He asked. My blood cooled. Jelani turned toward the entrance. A low sound rolled through the village. Not drums, howls, many. Too close. Zuberi snapped the bead still hidden in his left fist and threw crushed black powder into the council fire. The blue flames turned red. The ward stones outside screamed. A child cried somewhere beyond the hut. Then the eastern alarm horn split the morning. A scout stumbled through the doorway, bleeding from his shoulder. Chief, the cattle pass is open. The boundary fires are dead. Zuberi lunged. Not for me, for Josephine. A bone knife flashed from beneath his belt. I caught his wrist before the blade reached her throat and broke it. He roared, shifted halfway, and slammed his shoulder into Jelani hard enough to send him into the fire pit. Amina's arrow flew. It tore through Zuberi's upper arm. He crashed through the side wall in wolf form, black and gold beads scattering behind him like dead prayers. I started after him. Josephine caught my arm. For one heartbeat, the whole world narrowed to her hand on me. If you chase him now, she said, children die. I hated that she was right. Outside, Amani had become motion. Warriors shifted in the paths. Mothers carried children toward the underground burial chambers. Sefa shouted orders to healers. Makena lifted a staff carved from root and bone, her old body suddenly terrible with ancestral power. Jelani rose from the fire pit, smoke curling from his shoulders. I'm good, he coughed. Little roasted, still handsome. Amina grabbed him by the back of the neck and shoved a spear into his hand. Fight now. Joke later. He grinned at her. You worried about me? I am worried you will die stupid. No promises. Their words almost sounded normal. Then the first Hollowfang burst through the eastern gate. Twisted bodies poured over the ridge and into the lion grass beyond the village. Their jaws split wide, their limbs bent by curse and hunger. Behind them, War drums answered from the volcanic hills. Kivuli had not waited for moonrise. He had brought war to my door at dawn. I turned to Josephine. She already had her fruit basket in one hand and a knife in the other. "No," I said. "Yes," she replied. "This is not argument time." "Then stop arguing." Ancestors save me from stubborn women with healer's hands and warrior hearts. I leaned close, pressing my forehead to hers for one breath. "Stay where I can find you. Then keep looking." I pulled away and let the wolf rise. My bones cracked. My scars burned gold. Fur tore through skin as my body surrendered to the beast that had been waiting beneath my rage. Around me, Amani shifted, Jelani at my right, Amina on the rooftops, Josephine behind the healer line, glowing with Harvest Keeper power. I saw Zuberi on the eastern ridge, blood running down his arm, standing beside Kivuli like betrayal had finally found its master. Kivuli raised one hand. The Hollowfang charged, and I met them with my teeth. War tasted of ash, iron, and betrayal. I met the first Hollowfang with my teeth and drove him back through the broken eastern gate. Around me, Amani wolves crashed into twisted bodies pouring from the lion grass. The boundary fires were dead. The ward stones lay cracked. Zuberi had not only opened one path, he had taught our enemies where our bones were soft. That knowledge enraged me more than the blood. He had eaten at my fire. He had watched Josephine smile beside my council pit. Then he had sold her fear as protection. I tore through the front line until the ground shook beneath us. Hollowfang warriors came half-shifted, shoulders bent wrong, jaws split by curse, eyes clouded with moon sickness. Some fought like beasts. Some fought like men who had forgotten prayer. I killed the ones who reached for my people. I spared the young ones who hesitated. That mercy cost me a claw across the ribs. Josephine's voice rose behind the healer line. "Bring them to me." I turned. She stood near the heartfire circle with Sefa and Makena, my cloak gone, her braids heavy with ash, her basket open at her feet. Fruits rolled across the mat. Figs, mangoes, pomegranates, bitter oranges. Every time a wounded warrior was dragged to her, she pressed fruit to torn flesh and pulled sickness, venom, and curse into it until the skin blackened and split. Each healing stole something from her. I felt it through the bond, a flicker, a weakening, a stubborn refusal to stop. My wolf snarled inside my skull, mine to protect, but her earlier words answered just as fiercely, herself to choose. Jelani slammed into my right side, shifting back to human in a spray of dust and blood. "Chief," he panted, grinning like death had told him a joke. "If we survive this, remind me never to let traitors organize breakfast." An arrow flew over his shoulder and buried itself in a Hollowfang throat. Amina landed on the roof beam above us, bow already drawn again. "Move lower, loud man." Jelani looked up at her. "You see? She worries." "I worry your head is too large a target." "Still worry." I shoved him toward the cattle path. "Flirt after the village still stands." "Yes, chief." Amina's mouth twitched, but her next arrow was murder. The battle dragged from morning into a bleeding afternoon. We pushed the Hollowfang beyond the cattle pass. Then they folded back through the baobab groves as if retreating. I knew a false surrender when I saw one. Kivuli was not trying to burn Amani. He was driving blood towards sacred ground. "The burial circle," Baraka shouted from beside the broken ward stones. His blind eyes were lifted to the sky. He wants the old circle fed before moonrise. The old burial circle sat beneath the split baobab at the center of the Amani territory, where our first chiefs had been laid with obsidian blades across their chests. If Kivuli spilled enough blood there beneath the blood moon, the ancestors would be forced to answer. Not invited. Forced. I shifted again, bones cracking back into human shape as I seized a spear from the dirt. "Fall back to the circle. Shield the healers." The command rolled across the bond of my warriors. Amani moved as one, not perfectly. We were tired, wounded, furious, but we moved. By sunset, the sky had turned the color of old wounds. Smoke climbed from the eastern huts. Children hid beneath the burial chambers, with elders guarding them tooth and blade. Josephine remained at the healer line, hands trembling, lips pressed tight in that stubborn way that made me want to shake her and worship her in the same breath. Then I saw Zuberi. He stood at the edge of the burial circle, blood dried along his arm, where Amina's arrow had struck him. Beside him, Kivuli waited in black ash paint, calm as a priest at sacrifice. Zuberi lifted his spear. "You should have let her go," he called. I walked toward him. The battle seemed to open a path for us. "You called betrayal duty," I said. "I chose Amani." "No." My grip tightened on the spear. "You chose fear and dressed it in clan colors." His face twisted. He lunged. We struck hard enough to jar the earth. Zuberi had always been strong, proud, relentless. That was why I had trusted him near my back. Now every lesson I had taught him came back sharpened against me. He cut my shoulder. I broke his spear. He shifted halfway, claws bursting through his fingers, and slammed me into the split baobab. Bark cracked against my spine. Before he could bite down, I drove my knee into his ribs and threw him across the burial stones. My wolf wanted his throat. My chief wanted judgment. Josephine cried out behind me. I turned too fast. Kivuli had stepped into the center of the burial circle and spilled blood from his own hand onto the ancient stones. The moon rose, huge, red, then shadow began to eat its edge. Every spirit fire in Amani erupted, blue, gold, then a deep red that made even the Hollowfang stumble back. Baraka fell to his knees. "They are coming." The dead stepped through flame, not mist, not dream. Ancestors. Amani chiefs wearing old war hides. Harvest keeper mothers with fruit baskets woven from spirit vine. Hollowfang elders whose bodies still carried the memory of wolves before the curse broke them. They stood among the living, eyes burning like banked coals, and between them walked a child, small, barefoot, his chest marked with 3 symbols: fang, flame, fruit. The chamber of my heart went silent. Josephine whispered from behind me, "The first price." Kivuli's calm shattered. "Say your name." The child looked at him, then at me, then at Josephine. My name was Tumaini. Hope. The word struck every warrior harder than a blade. Tumaini lifted his small hand toward the circle. My blood was taken without consent. My death was called medicine. My spirit was chained to a lie. The ancestors bowed their heads, all of them. Amani, harvest keeper, Hollowfang. Shame had a sound. It was the silence of the dead. An ancient Amani chief turned to me. His face carried my jaw, my brow, my curse-scarred fire. Chief born beneath the cursed moon, hear what your elders buried. Hollowfang blood did not remain beyond the ridge. It sleeps in Amani houses too. No clan stayed clean after betrayal. My breath stopped. Kivuli's eyes moved to me, then to Josephine. A terrible understanding opened across his face. "No," I growled. Tumaini's voice rose. "No child will free you through murder." Kivuli stepped forward. "Then through sacrifice. Only what is freely given can return what was stolen." The eclipse deepened. The ancestors began to fade. Kivuli smiled like a man who had heard only the part of truth he could twist. "Then we will find what is willing." He threw ash into the red fire. Darkness burst across the burial circle. When it cleared, Kivuli was gone. Zuberi too. Josephine swayed. I reached her before she fell, catching her against my chest as the war roared back around us. Her hand pressed low against her belly. Makena saw it. The old woman's face changed. "Bring her to the healing hut." she said, voice shaking with something that was not fear alone. Now, Dawudi. Above us, the blood moon darkened further, and every ancestor fire in Amani bent toward Josephine.
Dawudi carried me into the healing hut as if the blood moon itself had reached for me. His arms were locked around my body, one beneath my knees, the other across my back, his chest still hot with battle and shifting. Blood streaked his shoulder. Not all of it was his. Not enough of it was his to make me stop worrying. "Put me down," I whispered. "No." "Dawudi." His jaw clenched. "When you can stand without the ancestors turning every fire toward your belly, then we will argue." I stopped breathing. My belly. McKenna pushed past the healers and swept dried herbs from the center mat with one angry motion. "Lay her here." Dawudi lowered me as carefully as if I were already breaking. Outside, war still snarled through Amani. Wolves howled. Warriors shouted. Somewhere beyond the hut, a drumbeat started and died mid-rhythm. Inside, everything narrowed to McKenna's hands. She knelt beside me, old fingers pressing lightly beneath my ribs, then lower, too low. I caught her wrist. "Grandmother." Her eyes lifted to mine. There were things women knew before words were given to them. Things the blood whispered before the mouth dared speak. McKenna's face did not soften. That frightened me more. "Seifa," she said, "bring the moon bowl." Seifa hurried forward with a carved calabash filled with spring water, crushed figs, and one split pomegranate. Its seeds should have been black from all the curse I had pulled into myself. They were not. One seed glowed gold. Dawudi went still beside me. I stared at that little seed until the hut blurred. "No," I breathed. McKenna dipped 2 fingers into the bowl and touched the water to my forehead, my throat, then just below my navel. The gold seed pulsed, once, twice, like a tiny heart answering from beneath water. The sound that left Dawudi was not human. He dropped to his knees beside me. Not as chief, not as alpha, as a man suddenly afraid to touch joy because prophecy had teeth. "Josephine," he said, voice rough. I looked at him, and the world tilted. A child. Not a prophecy, not a weapon, not a sacrifice waiting for a blade. A child. My hand moved to my stomach before I could stop it. I had healed too much, bled too much, been dragged through ash and river and visions. My body should have been empty of miracles. But beneath my palm, warmth answered. Small, stubborn, alive. My eyes filled. How can this be? McKenna's mouth trembled once before she controlled it. The body keeps secrets even from terror. Seifa whispered a prayer in Turkish and Swahili, hands shaking as she covered the bowl. Dawudi reached towards me, then stopped with his hand hovering above my belly. Even now, even with his eyes burning, he waited. My chest cracked open. "Yes," I whispered. His palm settled over mine. The bond between us burst bright, and for one breath I felt him completely, his wonder, his fear, his rage, his desperate love. He bowed his head until his forehead touched our joined hands. "No one takes this child," he said. The spirit fires outside roared red. McKenna's face hardened. "Kivuli already knows." A cold thread slipped down my spine. The ancestors had shown it in the burial circle. Hollowfang blood slept inside Amani houses too. Inside Dawudi, inside our child. The prophecy had not needed Kivuli's touch. It had found another door. I sat up too fast, dizziness clawing at my skull. Dawudi steadied me. "Lie down," he ordered. "I am tired of lying down while men decide what my body means." His eyes flashed, but he did not argue. Good, because if he had, I might have bitten him. McKenna gripped my chin, forcing me to look at her. "Listen to me, child. The blood moon is not finished. If Kivuli spills willing blood near you, he can open the old path again. He will try to call the child's spirit before the body is ready to hold it." My hand tightened over my stomach. "Can he do that?" McKenna did not answer quickly enough. That was answer enough. A shadow moved across the back wall. Dawudi rose before I blinked, His claws came out. The healing hut door slammed shut by itself. Every lamp died. Then a voice slid through the darkness. Not death, Josephine. Freedom. Kivuli. The floor split beneath the cinder mat, and black ash poured upward like smoke from a grave. Bone vines burst from the cracks, wrapping around the posts, the herbs, the healer shelves. Dawudi lunged for the shadow. The ash struck him in the chest and threw him against the wall. Dawudi! He hit the ground hard, snarling, already rising. But the vines moved faster. They wrapped around his wrists and throat, holding him back with the strength of old curses. Kivuli stepped from the ash circle. He looked wounded now. Blood darkened one side of his body. His shoulder hung wrong, but his eyes were calm, terrible, full of belief. Behind him stood Zuberi. His mouth was set. His chest was bare. A ritual cut marked him from throat to sternum. Willing blood. My stomach turned. Dawudi's roar shook the hut. Zuberi! Zuberi would not look at him. I did what you could not, he said. I chose the clan over one woman. You chose murder, I said. His eyes finally found mine. I choose sacrifice. Kivuli placed one hand on Zuberi's shoulder. He gives his blood freely. The old law must answer. Makena lifted her staff, but bone vines seized her arms. Sefa cried out as another vine wrapped her waist and dragged her back. I reached for the fruit basket. Kivuli flicked his fingers. It overturned. Mangoes, figs, oranges, and pomegranates scattered across the floor. One pomegranate rolled to my knee. I closed my fingers around it. Kivuli saw. He smiled faintly. Still fighting with fruit. Still winning with it. His smile vanished. The ash circle beneath me glowed red. Pain tugged low in my belly, not sharp enough to kill, but deep enough to make me cry out. It felt like invisible hands trying to pull a thread from the center of me. Dawudi lost control. His body began to shift against the vines, bones cracking, muscles tearing through restraint. The old posts groaned. Do not touch them, he snarled. Do not touch my mate. Do not touch my child. Kivuli's gaze flickered. There it was, not triumph, envy. You have everything, he said quietly. A true shift, a living mate, a child the moon recognizes. My people were born screaming into bodies that betrayed them. And so you would make my child scream too? I gasped. I would make his death mean something. No. I dug my nails into the pomegranate skin. You would make another grave and call it healing. The fruit split beneath my hand. Gold light spilled between my fingers, not black, gold. The child inside me answered. The entire hut filled with warmth. Kivuli stepped back. Makena laughed once, fierce and broken. The child refuses you. The ash circle faltered. I pressed the broken pomegranate to my belly and whispered to the life beneath my hand, Stay with me. A tiny pulse answered. Dawudi tore free. The vines around him snapped like dry bones. Kivuli grabbed Zuberi's knife and drove it towards the glowing circle, not at me, but at the thread of light rising from the fruit. Dawudi struck him before the blade landed. They crashed through the hut wall into the red-lit night. Zuberi staggered after them, blood feeding the broken ritual. Outside, the blood moon hung above Amani like an open wound, and every spirit fire bent toward me again.
Author's point of view.
The blood moon had made Amani a wound. Its red light poured over broken huts, split ward stones, blood-dark earth, and the bodies of warriors who had forgotten whether they fought for survival or vengeance. Smoke climbed from the healing hut where Josephine stood in the ruin of the wall, one hand around a broken golden pomegranate, the other pressed protectively over her stomach. Before her, Dawudi and Kivuli crashed across the burial circle like two curses given flesh. Dawudi fought with the fury of a mate, a father, and a chief betrayed too many times. His scars burned gold across his chest. Kivuli fought like a man who had mistaken desperation for destiny. Blood streaked his skin. Ash clung to him. Still he smiled. You cannot stop what was promised, Kivuli said. Dawudi drove him into the split baobab hard enough to shake loose old bones buried beneath its roots. No child was promised to you. Zuberi staggered toward the ritual stones, one hand pressed to the cut running down his chest. His willing blood steamed where it touched the ground. The law has answered, Zuberi rasped. Sacrifice has been given. No, Josephine said. Her voice was not loud. It did not need to be. The spirit fires bent toward her. Makena stood behind her, held upright by Seifa's arm, old eyes blazing. Baraka knelt beside the broken ward stones, blind face lifted to the blood moon, as if listening to the dead argue among themselves. Josephine stepped into the burial circle. Dawudi turned instantly. Josephine, she met his eyes. Trust me. That was the hardest command he had ever been given. Still, he obeyed. Kivuli laughed softly. You think fruit can undo centuries? Josephine lifted the broken pomegranate. Gold light spilled through her fingers, pulsing with the tiny, stubborn rhythm of the life inside her. I think you have worshipped the blade for so long, you forgot what the first wound was. Her gaze moved to the Hollowfang gathered beyond the circle. Mothers, warriors, children with bodies bent by inherited agony. Your people were not cursed because a child died. They were cursed because power was taken without consent, because a child was killed and called medicine, because every clan chose silence afterward. The ancestor fires shuddered. From the red glow, Tumaini appeared. The first price. The forgotten child. His small feet touched the blood-marked stones, but he left no print. Kivuli's face broke open with hunger. Tell her what must be paid. Tumaini looked at him with ancient sadness. I have been paid with death for generations. It has never freed anyone. Silence fell. Even the wounded stopped crying. Josephine's breath trembled. Then what breaks it? Tumaini lifted one hand toward the three clans. What was stolen by force must be returned by choice. The vow rose around them, spoken by living and dead together. No bloodline abandoned, no power taken without consent, no child sacrificed. Kivuli's jaw tightened. Pretty words do not stop children from being born screaming. No, Josephine said, but murder never did either. Zuberi lunged then, madness twisting his face. She will doom us all. Amina's arrow struck the dirt between his feet. Jelani slammed into him from the side, wrenching the knife from his hand. Stay down, brother, Jelani growled, all humor gone. You already shame yourself enough for one lifetime. Dawudi seized Kivuli by the throat. The Hollowfang leader did not resist. Perhaps he wanted death. Perhaps he believed his blood beneath the moon would still force the ritual open. Dawudi's claws pressed into his skin. Every warrior watched. Every ancestor waited. Josephine saw the terrible temptation pass through Dawudi, the clean satisfaction of ending the man who had stolen her, threatened their child, and dragged war to Amani's door. Then Dawudi looked at her hand over their unborn child, at the golden fruit, at the broken vow. His claws withdrew. I sacrifice my vengeance, he said, voice rough enough to tear the night. I will not feed this curse with another death. Kivuli stared at him. For the first time he looked truly afraid. Not of Dawudi's rage, of his mercy. Josephine knelt in the center of the circle and placed the pomegranate on the blood-wet stone. Amani, she called, give up your pride. One by one, Amani warriors lowered their weapons. Harvest keepers, she said, give up your silence. Makena stepped forward and touched the fruit. We hid truth to survive. We release it now. Josephine looked toward Kivuli. Hollowfang, give up your claim to blood. Kivuli did not move. Behind him, a Hollowfang child whimpered, his small body shaking through a broken shift. His mother held him and wept without sound. Kivuli saw them. Whatever remained of his certainty cracked. Slowly, he cut his palm and pressed his blood to the pomegranate beside Makena's hand. I give up the right to make graves for salvation, he whispered. The fruit split fully open. Gold light erupted. It rushed through the burial circle over blood, bone, ash, and scar. It entered the Hollowfang first. Their bodies arched, not in punishment but release. Twisted spines straightened. Split jaws healed. Patchy fur gave way to full coats of black, brown, russet, gray, and gold. For the first time in centuries, true wolves stood beneath the moon. A cry rose from the Hollowfang. Not war, not pain, wonder. The light passed into Amani next, burning through buried bloodlines and ancestral shame. Dawudi staggered as the old curse fire left his scars. Josephine reached for him, and he caught her hand before either of them fell. Above them, Tumani smiled. His form loosened into sparks. "Remember my name," he said. "We will," Josephine promised. Then the blood moon darkened once more. When its shadow passed, the spirit fires burned gold. Dawudi lowered himself before Josephine in front of every clan, every elder, every enemy made kin by truth. The feared alpha tribal chief of Amani knelt. He pressed his forehead to her hand. "The mother of the new moon," he said. The valley heard him, and no ancestor spoke against it. Peace did not arrive like rain. It came slowly, with burials, with trials, with Hollowfang children sleeping without pain for the first time, with Zuberi stripped of his oath beads and taken before the council he had betrayed, with Kivuli returning to the canyon ruins, not as conqueror, but as a man learning how to lead without a blade in his hand. Moons passed. Josephine's belly grew round beneath Dawudi's watchful hands. He became impossible, counting her steps, arguing with McKenna over herbs, threatening the sun for being too hot and the wind for being too cold. Josephine called him foolish, then let him hold her anyway. When the child came, it was at sunrise. No spirit fire changed color, no river screamed, no ancestor demanded blood. Only drums echoed through the valley of Nuru as Josephine gave birth safely beneath woven baobab shade. Dawudi carried his son into the morning light. The baby opened dark, knowing eyes and wrapped one tiny fist around his father's finger. Dawudi laughed then, not as chief, as a father. Behind him, Josephine watched with tears on her cheeks and peace in her bones. The ancestors were finally silent.
I hear the drums beyond the valley, calling softly through the night, like a secret wrapped in moonlight, guiding me without a light. Voices rise from ancient echoes, telling me to stay away, but every step I try to take back only leads me to where you lay. Something in the wind keeps calling, something in my soul replies, like a thread the stars have woven, pulling me beneath your skies. I know the road may break me open, I know the cost may be too high, but my heart has never listened to the warnings passing by. The earth remembers every footprint, every promise left untold, and I feel them in the silence like a story growing old. Maybe fate has carved a pathway long before this life began, 'cause every dream I keep escaping places your shadow in my hand. Something in the wind keeps passing by.